Look what I have here in my hand, Tyler Head. What do I have here in my hand?
That would be Wes Mitchell's mouse.
Wes Mitchell's mouse. You know, once again, we brag on a guy, we brag on a guy, we brag on a guy.
Hold on, let me let him know.
Let him know that we have his mouse hostage. And tell him if he brings me I'll make it easy, a large coffee from Drip, he can have his mouse back.
So you're holding it hostage?
Yes, I'm holding the mouse hostage now.
I will inform him and let you know what he says.
Large coffee from Drip, he can have his mouse back. If not, I just got me a new mouse to go with my other. And now the mouses are mice. If they're
I was going to say, you have a couple of your own. Do you need another one?
I already have two. Do I need a third? And by the way, don't listen to those two goofs between 11 and 12 with that rundown shortcut they were trying to sell you on today.
I felt like at some point I'd explained that to him, but I guess I never had. So I do wonder sometimes why they just never get back to me when it comes to, hey, what do you guys want to talk about tomorrow? Now maybe they will.
Yeah, now maybe they'll understand that, I actually go over this. It's just,
I was like, I do have to present what we're going to talk about. We don't just wing it.
Right. Oh, man, I heard that start laughing. Would Clark say something like, just make something up or do some whatever he said? I was getting ready to text him, but then you guys actually got like talking about real stuff, so I figured, okay, I'll leave him alone.
Well, and we had breaking news to start the hour.
Yeah, we're going to that right now.
That always throws the plans right out the window. Like, okay, I had a plan, but whatever. We can talk about this.
Let's go to the football complex for our breaking news from our correspondent Tyler Head.
Yeah, Troy Pikes, defensive tackle from Georgia Southern, committing to South Carolina out of the transfer portal. Guy was a redshirt freshman this past year, has 3 years of eligibility left. Pretty sought-after guy in the portal. His final schools came down to South Carolina, Georgia, and Ohio State. Pretty good company there, and obviously adds depth to a room that, as you just saw this past weekend, lost a lot of really good talent to the NFL.
Yes, and Pikes, Pro Football Focus, he had the best pass rush grade on the Georgia Southern defensive squad. Almost 78.8, almost an 80 rush grade per Pro Football Focus. But he didn't have any sacks. He had 9 pressures. He wasn't a starter. Mm-hmm. He was part of the rotation, but he was the best pass rusher on the team. And again, young guy, part of the rotation. He flashed enough this year where teams like Ohio State and some others were after him. Okay, the good news is the pass rush grade, excellent. Run grade, a little below average at 58.1. The worst grade was the tackle grade at about 26.
That's concerning.
So basically, really good pass rusher against the run, and dude has to wrap up better.
Here's the thing, though. Like I said, he's got 3 years of eligibility remaining. Mm-hmm. I kind of view this like Vangevius Jacobs coming in a season ago. Like, if he comes in here and is a performer in year one, fantastic. But you kind of can look at this as a more long-term play that he maybe can rotate in this year, maybe become a starter by year 2 or year 3. So he doesn't have to come in and blow you away right away. This can be a guy that you can work on.
And that's the point of him with 3 years of eligibility. And you hit it perfect. Come in, be a rotational. It's really like Brian Thomas was last year.
Yep.
Be the Brian Thomas of this year, at worst. Be the Brian Thomas of this year. Come in here, you get some snaps on the edge. Then once this wave leaves, then you'll step in and you'll hopefully take over. And then Dylan Stewart will be in his final season, and you'll be a starter with a lot of upside and high ceiling. That's the perfect world, right? That's your perfect scenario of this. But Pikes has a lot of ability. This is a very interesting get in the portal for South Carolina.
Yeah, and again, he did not play the vast majority, or he did not start the vast majority of games last year. Kind of looking at the numbers here compared to the 2 defensive linemen that were on the field the most in Elijah Fall and Latrell Bullard. He played a little more than half the snaps those guys played.
He had like 153 pass rush snaps, and those other guys had double.
Yep.
And so, again, he's a young guy. He was a rotational piece, but he really showed in his time on the field, especially rushing the passer. So, Troy Pikes could get from Georgia Southern in the portal for South Carolina. Nolan Hay, I believe, is here today doing his visit. Today's Tuesday, right? Or is that next Tuesday?
Yes, I think. Let me double check. I think he might be coming in a little bit later on in the week.
Today at some point, or he'll be here next
He's here
Tuesday.
Sometime this week.
I thought I saw Tuesday today.
Let me check.
You're at the complex. You're right now in front of the complex. What are you doing?
I have to check my sources again.
So Nolan Hay, either today or next Tuesday, will be in Columbia to do a visit. Guy played all over the offensive line, I think, except left tackle. He played everything else.
He'll be visiting later on this week,
Okay.
May 1st. So that'll be Thursday.
All right, so Thursday. He's coming in Thursday. So Nolan Hay will be visiting this week in Columbia. Guy played all over the offensive line at Incarnate Word.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see where that goes. Again, you can snag yourself more depth out of the portal. You go get it. Also, tonight, baseball. Dave, get ready with your finger. I should rephrase that. Dave, get ready to punch the buttons with your finger. Probably wasn't the way I wanted to go with that.
I'm waiting for somebody to have a 1075 The Game out of context Twitter account.
Oh,
because that might have been your first tweet.
That might have been it right there. Dave, get ready to click some sound. There you go.
That sounds better.
That's the ticket. Dave, get ready to click some sound. Paul Mainieri talking with Jay and Elijah yesterday on the postgame show. Of course, South Carolina and Charleston Southern tonight, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch. These are the games South Carolina handles. Sometimes they're close, sometimes they're not, but South Carolina typically wins these midweek games against mid-majors. Hadn't lost one all year.
Yeah. So, again, we know what the deal is. Mm-hmm. Should win this one. Okay, what do you do against Florida this weekend?
Absolutely. Here's a Paul Mainieri. Let's grab cut one. Look, a disappointing weekend in Lexington. You won the second game doubleheader. Will Tippett, phenomenal clutch at bat with the game-winning knock, the home run. You split the doubleheader. And you were in the final game of the series until you weren't.
Yep.
You kind of the wheels came off in a lot of ways during that third game.
2-run deficit in the bottom of the sixth, defensive errors. Obviously, you let 4 runs cross the plate in the bottom of the eighth, and you end up losing 11-5.
I'll give you a little stat I came up with today while I was sitting in my palatial office. 7th inning and later, bullpen ERA's over 8 in losses.
So just play 7 innings.
And you're fine.
Yeah.
You don't have to use a bullpen.
Just before every single game, negotiate with the other team. We're going to play 7-inning games.
You know what? Where's Jay and Elijah? I think I think you just came up with the outside the box idea, presented to Mainieri.
Sure.
Next Monday, I think you figured out how to save the season.
What are they going to do? Say no? What have you got to lose at this point?
Hey, that's all. Hey. Don't get no if you don't ask.
Again,
right?
think of all the games they would have won if it was only 7 innings.
Man, I was going over this today. I was looking at it going, oh, A&M, ooh, Clemson, ooh, late against this team and that team. And there's so many games this year where that bullpen I'm talking about, you were talking about the dam breaking.
Yep.
I mean, wow, that old school fireman thing, catching the mound on fire, not putting out a fire. And look, they've just struggled. I mean, I'm not. It's just you can't. There's no other way to talk about it. They've struggled.
By the way, what are you going to struggle with in the SEC, or what are you going to have trouble doing in the SEC if you don't have pitching? Winning. Mm-hmm. And there you go.
Absolutely, and. It's just, you don't have guys in there with like electric stuff or huge upside velocity or some crazy out pitch that nobody can hit or anything like that. I mean, they rely on location and command. And if their location or command are off, if you don't have look, sometimes stuff can help you outlive a mistake.
Sure.
If you don't have outstanding stuff or high velocity or whatever, and you make a mistake over the plate at 90, 91 with no movement, you know where it ends up?
Usually on the other side of the fence.
Yes. So it's just been tough this year. All right, here's Coach Mainieri. Let's get cut one here, Dave, talking about just not in a good place after the Kentucky series. Cut one.
Well, we're not really in a great position, are we? It's been just a season of close calls in so many ways, and then every so often we just have a bad game. And the first game out there, was a good ball game. I think it was tied through 4 or 5 innings, and then the batter hits a chopper in the infield, and the runner was trying to steal third at the time, and our outstanding third baseman, Scobie, who rarely makes an errant throw to first, just slightly pulled Hollins off the base, and the guy scored all the way from second base, and they take the lead, and they just kind of methodically added one here, one there, and we fought back a little bit, but First game was close, and then we turned around. It was a long day because it got rained out the first day. So now we got the second 9-inning game of the day, and another really good ball game, very close, contested game, and we were down a run, and Will Tippett steps up and hits a 2-run homer for us in the top of the 8th inning, and Ashton Crowther was really phenomenal coming out of the bullpen, 8 up, 8 down, and saved the game there at the end, and it was a nice win. So we had a chance, to win the series yesterday, and I think we just kind of saved our worst defensive performance of the year for this one day. It was a very winnable game. We just had tough time catching the ball and handling the ball yesterday. It was very uncharacteristic of our team. We've had our hitting struggles and we've had our pitching struggles, but our defense has been really good all year. I think going into the game, we had the 3rd highest fielding percentage in the conference, and the other 2 schools were just like 1 percentage point ahead of us. And man, we just had one of those days.
Yeah, unfortunately you did. And look, when you're having one of these seasons, it's almost like, everything takes turns on you, right?
Sure.
All right, you're like, today, all right, reach into the hat. All right, today the hitting's going to kill us. All right, reach into the hat. Today the pitching's going to kill us. Then out of nowhere, something that's been pretty solid for you all year or better than solid, your defense decides, hey, it's our turn. And it's just, look, it just goes into a year like this when you and I have had this conversation about men's basketball. It's ironic. It feels like this is going down the same path in a lot of ways.
Sure.
Is once you get it in your head that you're going to lose, or once you have bad things happen, you start to expect to lose. You expect bad things to happen.
Look, we've all been on bad teams, losing teams, little league, high school, whatever. And hey, we're up by 3 in the top of the 8th. All right. Guys, what's going to happen today?
Yeah.
Where's this going to go wrong? Who's going to screw up today to where you end up losing this game? Like, that's a mentality that's hard to escape.
Or this one, ready? You're rolling along and you're playing great and you're feeling awesome and confident, and it's the 8th inning and let's say you're up by 3. Okay, dude boots a ball. Now there's a guy on first.
Here it goes.
And now the next guy gets hit by a pitch.
Yeah.
Where are you at now?
Yeah. You got
all
2
your
on,
confidence is
no
gone.
outs, and you're like, oh boy. And then you're almost trying to make up for that.
Right.
Going forward, like, okay, got to make sure I don't make a mistake. And what does trying not to make a mistake do? Usually it's mistakes.
Make mistakes, right? Or you start trying too hard and then you get yourself out of your zone and you try to do something you can't do, and all of a sudden, like that A&M game in the 9th inning, the 2 grand slams.
Yep.
You had 2 outs and you still had this game won, and you just continued to put runners on base and boom, grand slam.
Yep.
Look, we weren't on the field, but if you're watching that thing or listening to it, you're going like this, oh, Jesus, we're going to blow this thing.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Again, when you've seen it enough times.
And you played it, and you're part of it, and it just happens. And it's almost like that. Go back to the defense, ready? Been pretty solid on defense all year, if not more than solid. What happens? Defense goes.
Yep.
All right, we're going to hear more from Coach Mainieri in the next segment, as we're going to get you caught up on the injury report with Ethan Petrie. That's coming up next here on the Halftime Show. David Dare's here. So's Tyler. So's Terry. We're going till 3 with the Halftime Show in the game. Halftime show. Talking lots of baseball and some Gamecock football as Troy Pikes from Georgia Southern has transferred into South Carolina. An edge pass rusher, young guy, 3 years of eligibility left. Put up some pretty good pass rush numbers last year at Georgia Southern in a rotational role.
Yeah, for somebody that wasn't on the field every single snap, decent. And again, you look at the fact that Georgia and Ohio State were pretty hard after him. That tells you this guy's got something. Again, he's going to come in and flash right away. Maybe, maybe not. But he's somebody that over the course of the next couple seasons hopefully factors into being a serious part of that D-line.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a good thing to bring in a guy like that. Hopefully, if not this, you're hoping by next year he could possibly be a starter for you. You can develop him, and he's got some ceiling there, man. We'll see where it goes. Also, Nolan Hay, offensive lineman from Incarnate Word in the portal, has played, I think, every offensive line position except left tackle. Hay is coming in for a visit later this week. We'll see what happens there as South Carolina trying to add depth on the offensive line.
Incarnate Word, former home of the number 1 overall pick, Cam Ward.
Right. Cam, you know what state that's in?
Texas.
Did you know that 3 years ago?
I think I actually did. I have a weird, and Chris and Wes didn't know where Hay had played prior to Incarnate Word, because apparently on their website just said HCU, and I was like, oh, it's Houston Christian. They didn't know that was the thing.
You know what city Houston Christian's in?
Houston. You know where Dallas Baptist is?
Texas.
Sure, getting warmer.
All right, it's time for you. Ready to go, Dave? We good to go here? Coach Paul Mainieri, he is the guy giving us our injury update for today. Hit it, Dave.
Time now for the Samuels Reynolds Law Firm Injury Report.
When you're hurt at work or in an accident, Samuels Reynolds goes to work for you. The Samuels Reynolds Law Firm. True injuries, true lawyers. 779-4000.
All right, Coach Mainieri giving us an update on Ethan Petrie. Cut 3, Dave.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not feeling too well. He hurt his left shoulder, and it's questionable when he'll be back. So that's obviously a big blow to us. Basically played a game and a half without him, and may end up playing the rest of the season without him. We'll have to see. Nathan Hall has been battling this heel problem, when he whacked his foot into the wall at Texas A&M trying to chase a home run down, and playing 3 games on that hard artificial turf surface that's at Kentucky. It's really hard, fast surface, and just the constant pounding of his heel. He couldn't even run today, so I don't even know if he'll be able to play tomorrow. So obviously without those 2 guys, we'll have a tremendous challenge tomorrow night, and we'll just have to have the next man up attitude and play as hard as we can tomorrow.
So your 2 best offensive players are banged up.
Not good.
It's just getting better by the minute, isn't it?
I don't like this, the classic case of when it rains, it pours. That's kind of what it feels like.
It's like a monsoon at this point, isn't it?
So, and the Petrie thing's odd. When we were kind of looking at his numbers this morning, it doesn't feel like he's had that great of a season, right? He's hit 10 home runs, obviously still pursuing the home run record and all that kind of stuff, but his numbers are fine. Mm-hmm. But, man, when he comes up in some of those clutch moments, he's just not been what he's been in years past, it feels like.
I feel like it's one of those things where for Petrie, I've been saying this all year, I wouldn't pitch to him at all. If I'm playing South Carolina in a 3-game series, or if I'm playing midweek, whatever, unless I have no choice, I'm not pitching to Ethan Petrie.
Sure.
Where he can do damage to my baseball team. There's no one, and this is, again, I'm not trying to be mean. There's no one hitting behind Petrie that is going to put enough fear into me that I'm going to pitch Ethan Petrie. I mean, his numbers, his strikeouts are down. He's walked almost as much as he struck out there this year. His OPS is still over 1,000. He's hitting a home run every 15 at bats. You're going,
it's good.
That's good, really good. But it just doesn't feel like he's having as good a year as he's had previously. But if you look at the numbers, he's had a really good year.
And look, he's not the only one struggling, in these clutch hitting situations when you got, a guy on third and 1 out or something like that. So he's not alone in that respect. But again, you kind of expect a little bit more out of him considering the fact that he's been one of the, if not your best player the past handful of years. And obviously he's going to go out and get drafted here very highly very soon.
All right. Also in the news in college baseball, Chris Lanorris got let go by Mississippi State yesterday. And we'll get to the whole spiel of that in a second. First, here's Paul Mainieri talking about this. It's cut 4, Dave. Lanorris is firing. Here's what Paul Mainieri thinks about just it's a tough world to be a coach in the SEC in baseball.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Always sorry to hear something like that. And Chris is a good guy, and I thought he won a national championship just a few years ago. But everybody's making a large investment in their baseball programs, and if the administrators want to see the investment pay off. And I'm not familiar with the Mississippi State situation. I don't even know who the athletic director is, quite frankly. I know that Chris and his coaching staff are all good guys, and I'm just sorry to see this happen for him.
All right, so Lanorris gets let go. Follow my timeline.
Yep.
Okay, so Lanorris is at Indiana, and he did well. He got Indiana into the NCAAs 3 times. Not known for their baseball in Indiana. I think the movie Hoosiers wasn't about baseball, right?
It wasn't? No.
That would have been interesting.
I was watching the wrong movie then.
You watched the sequel about Indiana baseball. So while this is going on, Ron Polk moves on. The legendary head baseball coach at Mississippi State moves on. John Cohen comes in. Cohen got Mississippi State to the College World Series in 2013. 2000 also Cohen, as I skimmed down, after that, got back to the College World Series. Did not. He got to the regionals in 14, didn't make the postseason in 15, but Super Regional 16, and then became the athletic director. Andy Cannizzaro took over in 2017, also got to a Super. Beginning of 2018, Andy had to resign because Andy was having a little extramarital affair.
Not the first coach that's happened to.
Yeah, it won't be the last, most likely. Gary Henderson then took over, and guess what? Mississippi State went to the College World Series. So exit Henderson as the interim head coach. Chris Lanorris then comes in 2019. And Mississippi State gets the College World Series. Then the next two, gets the College World Series in COVID. Then wins the College World Series in 21. So 19 getting to the College World Series, 21 getting to the College World Series. Well, the point is, Lanorris inherited a program that just came off of going to the College World Series.
Yep.
So he inherited, in some way, shape, or form, a talented crew with experience of going to Omaha. So Lanorris' first 3 years were phenomenal. If you look at the numbers of Lanorris in his first 3 years at Mississippi State, Lanorris was, I got it right here. Where's it at? First 3 years, 114-37. 2 trips to the College World Series, one national championship. After that, though, 118-98, only 1 trip to the postseason.
Yeah, and not just the tournament. They had missed the SEC tournament in 22 and 23, so they weren't even good enough in the conference to make that.
So can I throw something at you? And again, just trying to look at this on all sides. Maybe Chris Lanorris was really good with John Cohen and Andy Cannizzaro's players.
It's a classic case of inheriting the ingredients, being able to cook pretty good, but when you got to go to the store to yourself, you're not buying the same ingredients.
You gave food poisoning to everybody.
Exactly. It's like, okay, well, what's the correlation here? Why is this happening? Oh, it's when he finally starts to cook all on his own, we're having some problems. And again, they bounced back last year, but this year was going off the rails, and I think they kind of said, okay, last year was maybe an anomaly. The past 4 seasons have not gone well for the most part.
And I know always in theory that winning a national championship is supposed to buy you the golden ticket, right? In some way, shape, or form. But I think everything, again, is fluid. You look at this with Chris Lanorris, it's no offense. I mean, he won a national championship. He got to Omaha twice.
4 years ago.
Yeah, you can't take it away from him. But since then, and since it's become more of his program and he's buying more ingredients, how's the meal?
Not great.
So at some point, you have to step back and say, okay, this guy was great with other people's ingredients, made a hell of a meal, but since he's made his own ingredients, food's not very good.
Yeah, everybody's throwing up.
Let's go get a new chef. I'm tired of violently puking. So as everyone, and look, I'm not sitting here saying Lanorris isn't a good baseball coach. Obviously he is, but my point is he was high level when he inherited the program.
Sure.
And as time has gone on, this thing has not only gone down a level, it's gone down more than a level. So as much as you hate to see guys lose their gigs, I feel like Mississippi State this makes sense. 4 years out of this thing, you haven't been making the postseason but once, and when you made the postseason last year, you didn't do anything anyway. So maybe, just maybe, you were really good inheriting other people's ingredients, and now you got to find a new chef.
Yep.
At Mississippi State.
Again, just highlights how tough it is in this league.
Yeah. And again, I'm not saying the national championship shouldn't buy you time. It bought Lamona's 4 years, 3 of those years missing the postseason.
Yeah, sure.
So, well, but man, that's a good gig.
It is.
Cowbells, they love baseball.
Good history, a lot of investment in that program, and somebody's going to take it over and have a lot of resources.
Yep. Hey, just in case you just woke up, give you a little Neepkins update for women's basketball. It's coming up next here on the Halftime Show. David Ayer, Tyler Head, Terry Ford here on the game. just in case you just woke up. Get you caught up on the headlines in the world of sports, locally, regionally, nationally, globally, all around the solar system and everywhere else. Here, Terry Ford, Tyler Head, and David Ayer here on the game. All right, so just a little update because we haven't heard anything. So I started trolling around today. You remember Gianna Neepkins came in for her visit to Columbia the weekend of the spring game. Neepkins, of course, far and away the top uncommitted player left in the women's basketball transfer portal. She's again, almost a 50-40-90 player. 50% from the floor, 40% from three, and she just misses 90%, 89% from the free throw line. Neepkins can make buckets. Right now, according to some of the stuff I'm trolling around the internet, the South Carolina still leads the way for Neepkins. UCLA, though, is a close second. The timeline, maybe a week or two before the decision could be made. But Neepkins right now, from the stuff I'm reading, slightly ahead of South Carolina, UCLA, a very close second for Neepkins services. So that's the latest on Gianna Neepkins. You get Neepkins, that's a get in the portal to go with Latson, who led the nation in scoring. So that's a perimeter right there. So that's your latest on Gianna Neepkins. Again, South Carolina feels like slightly ahead of UCLA in the race to get Neepkins, and a decision in about a week or two is the guess on the timeline. All right, George Kittle, San Francisco 49er tight end, signs a new contract. Kittle, again, we always got to be careful with these numbers. We say this all the time. It's a contract extension. The possible, I guess, total money on the deal is about $76.5 million. $40 million in guaranteed money, but the real thing we always look for, Tyler, is guaranteed at signing.
Yep.
We don't see that yet. I'm almost betting you the $40 million guaranteed is not all guaranteed at signing. Some of it's guaranteed for injury, which you'll never get, because if a team is going to get rid of you at the end of a season, the last thing they're going to do is put you on the field.
Yep.
If they're not going to the playoffs, they're going to do what Denver did to Russell Wilson. They're going to do what the Raiders did to Derek Carr. They're going to say, hey, Bob, grab some pine. You're not playing because if you get hurt, then your money's guaranteed.
Right.
So George Kittle, obviously, he's going to get a decent amount of guaranteed money out of this, but it won't be the full $40 million. But it knocks his cap number down. His cap number is going to be like $22 million. It's going to knock down Kittle's cap number, which helps the 49ers maneuver, basically.
Yeah, and still the question of what's going to happen with Brock Purdy as he comes to the end of his rookie deal as well.
They're supposedly negotiating with Purdy. My guess is, ready, Purdy's camp wants as much as they can get, and the 49er camp doesn't want to give it to him.
Purdy says, well, I can take my talents elsewhere. And like, well, you're not going to be as good if you go somewhere else.
Go ahead.
The Shanahan system is designed for you, buddy.
What's that grass is always greener thing?
Yep.
Go ahead, man. Go. Why don't you go run with the Saints? Go get them.
Yeah, how'd that work out for Jimmy G when he left the 49ers?
Go run with the Browns. So, anyway, also, they've got to get a deal done with Fred Warner, their high-level linebacker. The thing about this with the 49ers is the thought process was you're clearing the decks to pay Purdy. I think part of that's true. But I also think, like with trading Debo, I just think Debo wanted to change the scenery. Mm-hmm. I think the 49ers, I feel like I understand where Debo Samuel was coming from. And it feels like the 49ers, how they were using Debo, the league had kind of adjusted to it.
Sure.
And his numbers weren't as good. There was some, injury issues. And I think Debo was like, I just want to go play another offense. Hey, I'll go play with that Daniels guy. He seems to be pretty good throwing the football to people.
Also a pretty creative offensive mind with Cliff Kingsbury. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited to see how they use him out there in Washington.
And so everybody automatically thought, okay, now the 49ers are just throwing salaries away now so they can. No, I mean, they got to a point where they couldn't continue to pay everybody.
Yeah.
And
which is why leagues have salary caps.
I always say the salary cap grim reaper eventually knocks on your door.
It keeps everybody balanced.
It breaks out the sickle, and you're going to have to, because like the 49ers, they still want to keep Trent Williams at left tackle. They still want to keep Christian McCaffrey. They still want to, they sign Brandon Ayuk. Fred Warner they want to keep, and they want to pay Purdy. You can't pay everybody, so you got to make some choices here. And that's what the 49ers are trying to do. I don't think this is let's just purge all the money and start over. I don't think they're not doing that, obviously, because they're going to pay Purdy. They're going to pay Kittle. They paid Ayuk. The talk is they're going to try to get Warner done. They're going to, Williams, McCaffrey. Now, do I think some of those guys should be paid? That's not here or there.
Yeah.
Because if it's me, I'm looking at this thing. I'm not paying Brock Purdy like top 10 money, because I don't think he's that good to be a top 10 quarterback. I think if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I can find quarterbacks to run the system. We've seen it, right?
Yeah.
And I think Brock Purdy has thrived in the system, and Brock Purdy, to his credit, better than I thought he was ever going to be, period.
But still, it's the question of, okay, if he goes somewhere else, is he still that good, or is he just a result of being in a system that's friendly to his play style and having a ton of weapons around him?
Ding and ding. It's this Kyle Shanahan, to his credit, Brock Purdy'd this offense to where there are throws Purdy. He has built this offense on all the throws Purdy can make, and he's keeping him away from throws he can't make. And he's point guarding to all these weapons. And even without Debo, I mean, you drafted Pearsall in the first round.
Yep.
Here recently. You've seen some other receivers step up. Jennings, for an example, played really well while Ayuk was hurt. So you've still got weapons. Christian McCaffrey, getting him healthy is going to help you out a ton. A healthy Brandon Ayuk. Remember, Purdy last year, when all the weapons were starting to drop, you're asking Purdy to do more, and it didn't go well.
Yeah, they struggled.
He struggled. More interceptions, more throws he'd like to have back, because, again, now you're taking him out of his lane.
Yep, and again, that's more of an argument for the 49ers side of things, saying, hey, bud, we want to keep you, but you got to do something team-friendly to us, because we understand you're not as valuable as some of these other guys.
Right. Now you're bringing George Kittle back, which will help you, because, again, Kittle, I love Kittle personally. I think Kittle's phenomenal.
Great personality.
He's great. And he's a heck of a tight end. He blocks. He actually likes hitting people.
Yep.
And when Kittle is healthy, because he plays so hard, he gets hurt. When Kittle's healthy, Kittle's very good. And plus, he's really good for the locker room as well. All right, NBA stuff real quick. This really doesn't matter, and I'm not trying to be mean. The Sacramento Kings are negotiating to make interim head coach Doug Christie the full-time head coach. Why doesn't that matter? They still have the same ownership, so it doesn't matter.
We see this across the board in sports. Yeah. You can continue to change the face on the billboard, but when it's still the same people that are putting it up.
When it's the same billboard company, it really
exactly.
doesn't matter.
So get in line with what the Raiders, the Browns, the A's, just to name a few, there's a common denominator here.
Yeah.
And it's that same ownership that's causing problems.
It doesn't matter. And the sad thing is Sacramento has some talent, but as long as you've got that ownership, nothing's going to matter, because eventually they'll find a way to screw it up. They just will, because that's what they do. They can't help themselves. So Doug Christie will be the next head coach in Sacramento. NBA playoffs last night, they had a wrestling match in San Francisco between Golden State and Houston. That thing, dudes are flying all over the floor.
I can't believe Draymond got a technical.
I know, stunning.
Crazy. That's never happened before.
Honestly, you would have loved that game if you can get a chance to watch it, because that was more WWE than NBA.
Kicked him in the head.
Yeah, Draymond got him, and then you get Dylan Brooks involved in Houston. Even Steph Curry, I think, got like a T for taunting or something. The thing got sideways last night. But Houston wanted to dirty it up to get Golden State out of their game and get in Golden State's head. The Warriors found a way to win, to go 3-1. By the way, playoff Jimmy showed up.
Yep. Finally off of
points.
The butt bruise.
Yep, he has a little butt pelvic bruise. Took him a little bit to get loose. If you've ever hurt your hip or your backside,
that
takes a little bit to get loose.
Your whole body runs through there.
Yeah, so it takes a little bit of time to get everything moving. But playoff Jimmy, 14 vital points in the fourth quarter, and Golden State won. There was a ticky-tack foul called on Dylan Brooks at the end of the game, where Butler went to shoot 3 free throws. First of all, not to be... if Jimmy Butler's shooting a 3, I want Jimmy Butler shooting 3s.
Sure.
Shoot a 3, Jimmy. I'm not going to get in your grill. Shoot a 3. But Dylan Brooks barely touched Butler, and it probably shouldn't have been called. That game, you had dudes in headlocks, guys going off the top rope. I mean, I saw a couple of like suplexes, and then the thing that Brooks got called on was very ticky-tack. But Golden State won. They're up 3-1.
Better than the early game.
Yep. Oh, yes. What? By the way, the Cavs just scored again.
Yeah.
All right. Firehouse Subtext, the hour's next here on the halftime show in the game. Time to get our Firehouse Subtext of the hour, 803-404-6100, as we roll the halftime show. What you got there, man?
Well, I never say it's a bad time for anybody to ask about Juice Wells, but Charlie said, did Juice get picked up as an undrafted free agent? Yes, I believe with the Giants, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
But we were talking about transfers in the last hour, and of course he went to go play with a first-round quarterback in Jackson Dart. Didn't help him out a lot, though.
So
you wonder, though, if he could have stayed here and been the guy at receiver with a budding potential future first-round pick in Lanorris Sellers, how much that could have helped. But, hindsight's 2020.
When you rewind, you get it. You're like, okay, man, Lanorris Sellers is unproven. Jackson Dart, is a lot more proven at that time. Lane's offense, lots of points, lots of yards. I'm guessing there was a bag or two thrown into that thing, is my guess. Ole Miss likes to spend money with their collective. So it's one of those things, okay, man, we get you, but then some of the extracurricular that didn't need to be said.
You didn't have to have the parting shots on the way out.
Right.
That's what really rubs people the wrong way.
Exactly.
And, man, I don't think I've heard louder boos than what we heard at Willie B that day. And look, there wasn't a whole lot to cheer about, but the fact was it OD or was it Nick that knocked the ball out before he could score the touchdown?
I think it was Nick.
Went from the loudest boos to the loudest cheers perhaps we've ever heard there.
And that might have been the only cheer of the day, matter of fact.
Yeah, I think it was.
But, yeah,
the made field goal.
Again, I get leaving at that point. Again, like you said, hindsight's 2020, but I get why you rolled.
Sure.
But, and plus that year with the how hurt are you? Were you cleared to play and you didn't want to play because you wanted to, get through the rest of the year because you knew you were leaving? All that stuff with Wells. That was the... we talk about the positives of the portal and guys coming in like, Demetrius Knight or Kyle Kennard or Rocket Sanders who come in. They help build up your culture and help your culture. And then you get the transfer portal where, guys truly are mercenaries and looking out for themselves. And it felt like that was the route that Juice Wells went in year 2.
Yep.
And so you get to see the good and the bad, right? The shiny cool and the dirty underbelly of the transfer portal. With those guys. So, nope, Juice Wells, a undrafted rookie free agent, going to ironically play with his buddy Jackson Dart.
That's true. O'Donnell Fortune, also an undrafted free agent with the Giants as well. So
it's funny. Elijah and I were talking about Fortune upstairs here a little while ago, and I went back and I'm like, okay, I watched him play. I thought Fortune legitimately could have been a third day pick. I know he didn't run he ran the 40 in like 4.57, and that's a thing, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's just a thing. Whether to me, how do you play? Do you play faster on tape than you run in your underwear? I mean, does a tape show him getting beat deep? Does a tape show a lack of speed or catch-up speed or whatever the case? But I know when you run a 4.57, they're going to nick you. That's just the way it goes.
Of course, because guess what? Every receiver in the NFL is fast.
Yes, faster than 4.57. It feels like. And other things they were talking about, so like his tackling was always inconsistent. He comes sometimes, he make a nice play, and sometimes he'd whiff. And, discipline-wise, you just got to be a little more disciplined in either coverage, run support, whatever. And I get that stuff, but then I think to myself going, yeah, but I still think a third day selection, I could have seen Fortune going in the fifth or sixth round.
I thought especially given the fact that Carolina's been routinely putting defensive backs in the NFL, including obviously him and Ori going early in the second round, that was going to kind of give him the benefit of the doubt. Like, okay, he's coming from a good system with what Torian Gray has here where, okay, let's get him in as a 6th, 7th round pick, whatever it may be.
I mean, you can look, Marcellus Dial was picked last year, 5th round by New England?
5th or 6th, one of those.
I mean, again, I think Fortune, just as good a player as Dial. That's just me.
And, hey, again, he had his share of options, thought the Giants were the best situation to go to, and now has a chance to go out there and make the team.
And I've said this, and you and I have had this conversation. I know you want to hear your name called.
Sure.
Have your family cheer for you, hug people, have some tears. I think you deserve it.
So as you get into the 7th round, the janitors are calling the names out at that point. It's not Goodell anymore.
Exactly. And plus, once you get to the 7th round, maybe it's better off to be the undrafted rookie free agent where you can go pick your team and find a team that's got some weakness in the corner room.
Sure.
And go in there. And
do I want to go to the team that has 10 cornerbacks or the one that has 4?
And none of the 4 are very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's almost like it benefits you in some ways to be an undrafted rookie free agent once you get to the 7th round.
Sure.
But, O'Donnell Fortune, we'll see where it goes. I think he's got if he can embrace special teams and go out there and grind and stick in the league until you get a chance to maybe
You're going to have
corner.
to do the dirty work. I mean,
absolutely.
It's not going to be glamorous, but you got a shot.
No, not at all. All right, football and lots more football, and we'll talk some football. And how about some football in the 1 o'clock hour? In case you missed it, South Carolina gets an edge pass rusher out of the portal and a visit from an offensive lineman. We will get into that coming up next on the halftime show. With David Ayer steering the ship, he's Tyler Head. I'm Terry Ford. We go to 3 on the game. Lots of football in the 1 o'clock hour in the halftime show, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. Baseball tonight, South Carolina and Charleston Southern. We get it rolling here, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch on the game in Columbia at 107.5 and our affiliate Myrtle Beach 100.3 the game. And that's tonight, 6:15. Everything gets rolling in Columbia and Myrtle Beach. All right, so in case you just hopped in with us, Troy Peaks. I'm trying to remember. I just blanked.
Yep, that's
Troy Pikes. I'm sorry.
Pikes.
I said Peaks. Troy Pikes from Georgia Southern. Edge pass rusher as committed to South Carolina out of the portal. Again, Pro Football Focus pass rush grade, really good, almost 80. Run grade, a little bit below average of 58. Tackling's been an issue for Troy in his young career. About 26 is the grade. Now he's got 3 years left of eligibility. And he was a rotational edge last year at Georgia Southern as a youngin'. And again, his pass rush grade really good. So he will come in, maybe be a rotational piece again this year, develop a little bit more, and who knows, in 26, might have a starting edge.
Sure.
Or he can contribute more and more as this year is coming up in 25. Who knows?
If he does, great. If not, again, you assume you got more time with him, can develop him. Again, I kind of draw comparisons to Vernjavius Jacobs, that wide receiver who dealt with some injuries last year, but saying, okay, well, he doesn't have to come in and make a splash right away. We'll see what happens over time.
All right, also, Nolan Hay, offensive lineman from Incarnate Word, is visiting on Thursday, I believe. Our correspondent, Tyler Head, said as he was over there at the Spurrier Complex. Hay has played every position on the offensive line except left tackle, if my memory serves me. So Hay will be coming in for a visit later in the week. All right, you've lost Demetrius Knight, Kyle Kennard, Nicky Manwari, TJ Sanders to the NFL draft.
Mm-hmm.
You still have Dylan Stewart left.
Yep.
All right, if we're gambling then, which we aren't because we're too broke, who replace? And it's early in the game. This is just looking forward. Brian Thomas right now, the guy to replace Kyle Kennard?
That'd probably be the leader in the clubhouse if I had to pick one. Again, we kind of have seen it to a degree. Wasn't the guy, but somebody that rotated in, gave some production. Because, I mean, for the rest of the room, there's nobody in there that really jumps off the page at you and says, wow, here's what we saw out of him either here or somewhere else, leads you to believe that that's going to be a definite thing.
The only other guy is JT Gear. We forget that when he left Syracuse, he had like 5.5 sacks his last year at Syracuse.
And he was the starter for game one last year.
Remember that? It wasn't Dylan Stewart.
Then what Kennard had a sack on the first play, and we immediately forgot about that.
Exactly. Nobody thought about, JT Gear.
And I think he was starting on the Stewart side. And then Stewart obviously ended up doing what he did and just kind of, and again, he was out there rotating in, got some sacks and that kind of stuff. But he's been dinged up in his time at Carolina, and they're talking a lot about him finally being healthy. So if he can do that, that's great. We'll see.
The wild card in here, Des, we hope. He looks like, remember, we always hear, getting off the bus, he looks like a football player.
Looks like a monster. And, you go to the defensive end room, and he's the one that you notice first. So that's great. Go out there and be productive. And again, is somebody going to go out there and get 11.5 sacks themselves? That'd be great, but probably not. But if you can have a combination of, let's say, those three, and they can combine for 12 sacks themselves, in addition to whatever Stewart's doing on the other side, great. You'll take it.
And you're going to get your opportunities with Dylan Stewart getting doubled and chipped and tripled, and everything else is going to happen. So I feel like Brian Thomas right now. It feels like the guy.
Probably.
Okay, on the inside, you've lost TJ Sanders. You lost Tonka Hemingway. We've got to throw him in as well to the draft. DeAndre Jules is gone too. Alex Huntley. I think we see where this is going with the guys who popped out in the spring, right?
Yep.
And we feel like our boy Gabe will be there from Texas A&M. Goodwine from Alabama. It feels like they're the leaders in the clubhouse to start on the interior.
Yeah, I mean, Barrett's going to get his opportunities.
Blanked on Nick Barrett. He's barely part of that rotation.
He's been here a while. So, yeah, that's probably your three leaders at this point. And then after that, we'll see. We'll
see where it goes. So it feels like those three vets will be the guys rotating the interior to try to replace Sanders and Hemingway, who got drafted, and obviously Huntley and Jules, who are free agents. Then you look at linebacker. You know, Ben Martin Scott signed as an undrafted rookie free agent. Obviously, Knight got drafted in the second round. Is Debo signed?
Debo did sign. I got to see who that was with. I forgot, but he did end up signing.
Okay, so Debo Williams also signing. Tell you what, if nothing else, I think Debo could have himself a nice little career as a special teams guy.
Sure.
Because, I mean, let's face it, that man just likes to hit things.
Yeah, and all right, ball's punted up in the air. Go run that way and hit someone. That's perfect.
Hit somebody. Debo would be you know what?
He signed with the Steelers.
Wouldn't he be the perfect Terry Tate office linebacker?
Oh, man.
Debo.
Yeah, just flying around.
Knocking the heck out of people.
You know what? Yeah, he might hit his own teammate every now and then, but it's part of the process.
That was Preston always say. When the ball snapped, Debo's hitting something. Sometimes his own guys, but Debo's hitting something. So you're replacing all those folks. Obviously, our man Fred is in the mix here to play.
Yep.
Johnson. Couple guys.
Whatever we want to call him.
Yeah, exactly. I like Fred. Our boy, whose name we can't say,
Okoronkwo.
Okoronkwo from Alabama. Murphy from Florida State is in the mix as well.
That's your three for now.
And that feels like that's the three for now you're going to see. I think because Murphy really gained on everybody during spring.
Yeah, you hear good things about Jaron Willis, who is at times rotated in and
I'm glad you
been
brought
able to
him
do some
up.
things.
Put him on the edge as a stand-up guy.
When they were doing the 3-3-5 stuff.
And he did it in the spring game. They were rushing him off the edge in the spring game. Willis is going to be a factor.
Because he's been here
possibly
for
10 years.
Feels like it, yeah.
I remember when he came in from Ole Miss, young guy. He was a redshirt freshman.
And he was kind of one of those guys saying, okay, development piece, somebody that can help you out down the line. And again, the room's wide open now, so here's your opportunity.
And remember, he like with Bam Martin Scott, when they went 3-3-5, Willis and Scott were the ones that really unleashed pass rush in November a couple years ago.
Yep.
And I think Willis is going to be a contributor off the edge as like a stand-up edge rusher at times. It feels like that's what they're going to do because he can really rush the passer.
Yeah.
Other parts of his game might not be up to the level of what he is as a pass rusher, but that guy, he comes off the edge pretty nice.
And look, they brought in a lot of freshman talent this year as well at linebacker. And again, I go off Wes and Chris because they're the ones that see these guys at camps and watching their high school games, stuff like that. Jaquel Holman, Donovan Darden, a couple names kind of stand out.
You heard Darden, Shane brought up Darden multiple times during the spring.
So do you don't count on those guys coming in and making an impact right away, but if they do, that's great.
Yeah. I mean, in the world you're in now, if a freshman, if you have a Dylan Stewart, great. But if not, you're looking at, you don't want to rely on a freshman to step in and play for you unless he is a wow type of dude, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. And in the portal, you can go get veterans. So if a freshman's not really ready to go out there and play, because most aren't, you're not asking a guy to go out there and do what he really can't do.
Right.
I mean, so that's kind of where it feels like with the guys coming in to replace the fellows that went off and hit the NFL draft. A lot of unproven, but there is talent. It's just unproven talent. But these guys all have pretty high ceilings. We'll see where that goes. All right. We are talking nothing but football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. Greg McElroy doing his get ready to click the mouse there, Dave.
Get the finger ready.
Get ready. Finger exercises, Dave. Get your finger ready. We're going to do cut 5. Greg McElroy on his podcast was going over the top 10 quarterbacks
Top 10
coming
quarterbacks
back,
heading into this
heading
season.
into the season. This was a very interesting list. Hit it, Dave.
Number 7, we will go to South Carolina, where we have Lanorris Sellers. Yeah, all you got to do is just watch the young man play. Watch how big he is, but how effortless his moves are. It's kind of amazing to me that a guy that's 240 pounds can move laterally as easily as he does. Like, I would expect Lanorris Sellers, you just watch him, I would expect him to be a power runner, QB power, running guys over. It's not really how he plays. He's light on his feet. He can move. He can escape. He can keep his eyes downfield, and he's really, really accurate when he gets his feet set. And I think he's done a better job as the season went along last year, keeping his eyes up when he scrambles and staying a passer when he's on the move. As a result, he went for over 2,500 yards, 18 passing touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. But it was the efficiency. It was the efficiency of nearly 66% completion and almost 700 rushing yards, including some big ones, including a 75-yarder against LSU out the gate there in week 2 or week 3. I think Lanorris Sellers is in a really good position because there is no way, and maybe I'm being naive here, there is no way his receiving core is as big of a question mark this year. There's just no way that's possible. Last year, their best wide receiver was a tight end in Josh Simon, who was excellent, a great player. But they had a lot of question marks at wide receiver. At one point, their best wide receiver was their slot receiver. He was a true freshman as well, but he was banged up a little bit as the season went along. So if they can just figure out the pieces around Lanorris Sellers, he's poised for a great 2025 season. He already won SEC Freshman of the Year last year, was third team all-conference, which is pretty amazing. And by the way, he was banged up some of the year with an ankle injury. So if you can just marry up his skill set with what he can do on the ground and improvising and how he had to take the game over against Clemson and going for 170 yards and 2 touchdowns, I think this is a young man, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not being unfair to the wide receiver room. It just last year there wasn't a lot of consistency in production. Mazeo Bennett at times would pop. Then there are some games where Mazeo Bennett really didn't bring you a lot. Nick Harbor near the end of the year started to look like a real SEC wide receiver.
Yeah.
Brown couldn't stay healthy all year.
And we went into last year without a true wide receiver one, and that's still the case this year, I think many would say. But again, you have production out of Mazeo Bennett as a freshman last year. Harbor came along as the season went along, got some of these younger guys that could end up.
Campbell popped up out of nowhere.
Campbell popped up out of nowhere, and obviously you don't have him
he's not
this
here
upcoming
anymore.
year. But it's not like leaps and bounds better than it was a year ago. But I would agree with him saying you're feeling better about it going into this year than you did last year.
Yeah, I mean it's because you have experience there. Because Bennett's back and Harbor's back and Brown is back, and you're hoping Brown can be healthy. Remember, Brown also was playing out of position.
Yep.
To where he played at Coastal. So you're hoping that those guys coming back and these freshman wide receivers who, by the way, all looked, and I know it's a spring game, but they all looked pretty good in the spring game. Like they've got some potential to help you out in some way, shape, or form this year. McElroy also, just this list, because he had Lanorris Sellers at 7. The list goes like this. Starting at 10, Haynes King at Georgia Tech, very underrated. Once he got away from Jimbo, became a better player. Weird. Number 9, DJ Lagway at Florida. As I sneeze. DJ Lagway at Florida, who showed you a lot in the roughly half a season he was a starter last year.
Mm-hmm.
Number 8, Sawyer Robertson at Baylor. You're like, who? Yeah, I mean, he threw for ready for this. He threw for over 3,000 yards last year, 28 touchdowns, only 8 picks. Started his career off at Mississippi State, I believe, when Mike Leach was there. He came in with Leach and then left.
Air raid type of guy.
Yep. So Lanorris Sellers at 7. Carson Beck is at 6, which is interesting. We were looking at the way too early 2025 draft yesterday, right?
Yep.
Who was a top 5 pick in that draft?
Top 6. He was 6. But
Carson Beck.
Carson Beck, a year ago, as the number 6 overall pick and one of the first quarterbacks off the board. That changed quite a bit.
And now he's the number 6 returning quarterback, which is interesting.
That's a debate.
Garrett Nussmeier at 5 from LSU. Drew Aller, Penn State at 4. Sam Levitt, Arizona State 3. John Mateer, Oklahoma 2. Cade Klubnik, Clemson 1. All these guys ahead of Lanorris Sellers are much more experienced than Lanorris Sellers. I mean, even Sam Levitt. Levitt, by class, is going to be a redshirt sophomore. Remember, he was at Michigan State before he went to Arizona State, so that guy's been around a ton. Now, at the end of the day, Lanorris Sellers and DJ Lagway, the 2 most inexperienced guys on this list. And so maybe that's why you see Sellers at 7, Lagway. Now, you know who's not on this list? We'll talk about that next. Don't go anywhere.
Yep.
There's somebody very important not on this list. We'll get to that next here on the Halftime Shows. We talk football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the Game. We just yap about football in the 1 o'clock hour here on the halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler had David Dare on the game. Now, we were giving Greg McElroy's top 10 returning quarterback list. Again, number 10, Haynes King, Georgia Tech. Number 9, DJ Lagway, Florida. Number 8, Sawyer Robertson, Baylor. Number 7, Lanorris Sellers, South Carolina. Number 6, Carson Beck, Miami. Number 5, Garrett Nussmeier, LSU. Drew Aller, Penn State at 4. Arizona State, Sam Levitt at 3. Number 2, John Mateer, Oklahoma. Clemson's Cade Klubnik coming back at number 1. There is a name not on this list.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Perhaps the most popular name in the sport this year.
The most NIL money of any quarterback.
Yeah, I'd love to meet a quarterback making more.
Arch Manning. And, Greg McElroy's like, look, the guy played 3 games and not against the most intense competition. So these guys have a better body of work. I feel more confident about these 10 guys because Arch Manning didn't start. All these guys started at least half a season last year.
Sure. No, and look, he's not wrong. Now, does Arch Manning have an insanely high upside? Absolutely. And, going back to the projected 2026 draft, he's projected to be the first guy off the board at the number 1 pick. Funny enough to the Saints, where his grandfather played, obviously. And we'll see if that happens, but he could flame out. We've seen plenty of guys do that. And, again, when you look at his production on the field in terms of games that he started, let's see, he started against, UL Monroe.
Sam Houston, right?
I think it was UTSA.
UTSA.
And then Mississippi State, all in 3 weeks when Ewers was out at the beginning of September. Not exactly quality opponents.
No.
If I remember, Mississippi State was the worst team in the SEC.
Didn't Mississippi State, it felt like they actually didn't put anyone on the field to play defense.
Yeah. Now, again, he went out there and between those 3 games tossed 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and completed well over half his passes. So he did what he was supposed to do. But, and I keep going back to this, the Georgia game, right? Quinn Ewers struggling in the first half. Texas is down 20-0.
Yep.
Sark puts Arch in at quarterback before halftime, and he had a chance to go out there, and if he leads the team down the field, Ewers never sees the field again.
Right.
But he struggled too.
Yeah.
And Ewers comes back out there not long after that, and again, they used him situationally and on goal lines, stuff like that, but he never took the reins over. That doesn't mean he can't, and that doesn't mean he's not going to be a great quarterback, but we haven't seen it enough yet.
So I'm with Greg McElroy, too. Look, we all see the hype. We see the ceiling and the upside and all that, and you saw it last year in those 3 games and the times they used him as a situational quarterback or whatever. But, again, his body of work is nowhere near what Klubnik and Mateer, Levitt, Aller, Nussmeier, Beck, Sellers, Robertson, Lagway, and Haynes have. It's just not. So I totally understand that. I do. And, we'll see what Arch Manning does. But I totally get it. I do. All right, as we continue to talk football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the game. This is just very interesting, and this is a discussion point. Brad Crawford from 24/7 Sports, I guess it was during the draft. He says here, 3 texts from NFL types tonight that I guess he got. Quote, South Carolina churns out draft picks on defense every year. Next one, how does South Carolina only win 8 games a year? Third one, everybody's looking at that coaching staff with eyeballs.
Now, what does the last one mean is my question.
Basically, they're basically blaming coaching for why South Carolina doesn't win more games.
Okay.
When I see that, now that, it's whatever. I'm just reading what someone allegedly had texted. That's someone who doesn't really pay attention to college football because they're working in the NFL.
Sure.
For an example, South Carolina had 5 guys drafted, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. How many guys did Ohio State get drafted?
Like 14.
How many guys did Georgia get drafted?
Like 13.
Mm-hmm. Oregon, 10, I believe it was.
Somewhere around there.
5 is great, but when you look at the powerhouse teams in college football, they're getting near double digits.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and when you look at the amount of the breakdown of SEC teams putting talent in the NFL, Carolina's about in the middle this year.
So how can you say, well, they should be winning a lot more games because they got some guys drafted? Look, last year they had a hell of a defense, and those guys are getting drafted. Instead of looking at it like that, because it's the ultimate team sport. Last time I checked, you do need to have people playing offense and special teams and everything else. So Kyle Kennard gets drafted. Kyle Kennard, was he one of the top 5 guys coming in through the portal?
No.
Demetrius Knight got drafted. How many people were jumping up and down in the world of college football saying, oh, my gosh, South Carolina got Demetrius Knight?
Not many. Even us here locally, we're like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
Let's
guy's
see what
athletic.
happens.
Sweet. All right. Tonka Hemingway been in South Carolina how many years?
About 12.
You have TJ Sanders?
About 12 as well.
All right. So these guys that got drafted, none of them were 5-star recruits, can't miss guys. None of them were Dylan Stewart.
No.
They came in, most of them under the radar in some way, shape, or form. I mean, I think Tonka was a 4-star recruit, but still not like a top.
Yeah.
Wow, oh my God, got Tonka Hemingway. So if anything, this goes to, instead of looking at it like those texts were to Brad Crawford, I would look at it like these guys all came in, and with the combination of the hard work these players put in and the hard work the coaches put in to develop them, they ended up getting drafted in the first 4 rounds. So to me, this is about work ethic, development, recognizing traits as a coaching staff, and then working on all those things. So to me, this is hard work and development by players and coaches, which should be a positive, not a, hey, man, they got like 5 guys drafted. They should be better. Well, look at the guys that got drafted.
Sure.
But that's just from a guy that he's an NFL guy, and he doesn't really dig into knowing where these guys came from or they developed or whatever. He just saw, well, South Carolina's getting a lot of guys drafted. He might not even know it was only 5. It might have felt like 15 to him.
It's a instant reaction to it.
Yes, that's what it is.
I'm sure if he sat down and thought about that, then he probably could have come to the same conclusion.
Right.
But, yeah, it's surface level. I understand what he's saying, but when you dive deeper, that is remarkable what they were able to do.
Yeah, I saw this too. Ready for this? I got to find this. Brad Crawford, this was a good tweet. 5 stars who did not get drafted. He puts down 3. Want to give it a shot?
I know one of them's DJU.
Yep, DJU is one.
Did he sign with the Chargers, maybe? Which, by the way, I can't believe he actually signed with anybody.
I wouldn't sign him.
I'm not going to count on him making a team.
No. It's Uwe Ungolele is one.
Yep.
Brew McCoy, remember, 5-star to Southern Cal as a wide receiver before he went to Tennessee. In this one, you got a really deep dive to remember Logan Brown, the offensive tackle from Kansas. Those are 3 5-stars who went undrafted. And you had another one in Quinn Ewers that almost went undrafted.
Yeah, it dropped to 231. Because, again, when you were given that 5-star label, you're projected saying when you go to the NFL, you are right now what we see as a future first-round pick. That's why they only hand out so many of those things every year.
Yeah, it's just, here's the other thing with Ewers, and Feinbaum was killing Ewers. And, you know, Feinbaum has a point. And if you're Quinn Ewers, you have a year left of eligibility, you're not going back to Texas. It's Arch Manning's time. You know it. You could have pulled a Carson Beck. Now, would you guys much money as Carson Beck? I don't know. But you would have got a nice 7-figure check to go play.
He would have been making at least what Carson Beck was making.
I mean, to me, honestly.
He had a better season last year.
I was going to say, if you look at both of them, they were both a disappointment in ways. I mean, look, Quinn Ewers is supposed to be better than he has been. Has he been solid to good? But like you said, he was supposed to be wow.
Sure.
You saw that.
You're telling me Wake Forest wouldn't pay him $4 million to go be quarterback there?
I mean, somebody would pay him a good 7 figures to go quarterback. And I don't know if Ewers got bad advice. I don't know if it was just, I don't want to play college football anymore. I don't know if it was, you know, just arrogance on your part, thinking you're going to go higher than you are going to go. Did an agent tell you something? But to me, if you take a step back, and we discussed this when at the end of the year when we realized he wasn't going to be until a day 3 pick. This is like no secret. To me, why didn't you have the conversation? Should I stay another year, bag another season of NIL money? It's going to be 7 figures, and then take my chances the following year. I know this draft class for quarterbacks wasn't that great, but still, this is something we talked about near the end of last year was, do you go somewhere else and play for a year like Carson Beck did?
Yep.
I don't know. Interesting. All right. More football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the halftime show here on The Game. A lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors here on the halftime show. All right, Dave, get ready. Get your finger ready, Dave.
Here we go again.
I said do it one more time. All right, we're going to go with cut 7, so be ready, Dave. Well, yesterday, we kind of read the transcript because we hadn't had the audio yet of Brandon Beane, the Buffalo Bills GM,
right,
going on sports radio in Buffalo. And basically listening on hold while those guys were talking about why didn't you draft a wide receiver. And Brandon Beane's hearing this about, well, why didn't the Bills draft a wide receiver? And then Brandon Beane kind of called these dudes out about discussing this whole wide receiver thing. All right, so cut 7, Dave, hit it.
No, it was. I was just listening to the last few minutes of your show before I came on, waiting on here.
All right.
Sounds like 2018 all over with you guys.
Well, how so?
Well, you guys were bitching in 2018 about Josh Allen. You guys wanted Josh Rosen, and now you guys are bitching that we don't have a receiver. I don't get it. Like, we just hold on, let me talk. We just scored 30 points in a row for 8 straight games. A year ago, I get you guys asking why we didn't have receivers, but I don't understand it now. You just saw us lead the league in points when you add all the postseason. No one scored more points than the Buffalo Bills, including the Super Bowl champions. So you just saw us do it without Stephon Diggs, same group. How is this group not better than last year's group? Our job is to score points and win games. Where do we need to get better? Defense. We did that. So I get it. You got to have a show, and you got to have something to bitch about. But bitching about wide receiver is one of the dumbest arguments I've heard.
Okay, so again, Brandon Beane's on hold. And he hears the two co-hosts talking about the Bills' wide receiver room and how they need to get better at wide receiver, right?
Yep.
And so Brandon Beane comes and says, "Look, we're scoring 30 points a game. Blah blah blah. We can't be great everywhere. Blah 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 blah." Now, to be fair, let's take a look at wide receiver. They went and got wide receiver from Maryland, Caden Prather, 7th round, is their final pick.
Yep.
And if you look at last year, they basically scored all the points they did with, Keon Coleman, the Florida State rookie, and caught like 29 balls. Khalil Shakir, who really kind of a slot receiver, caught 76. Dalton Kincaid, the young tight end, had 44 grabs.
They have one of the best tight end combos in the entire league.
Dawson Knox is really good, too, because you take Knox and Kincaid together.
Right, but nobody at receiver wowed you necessarily. And again, you lose Shakir now.
Right, and so you threw the ball out of the backfield to James Cook. So, look, to be fair, I get what the guys are saying on the air that you didn't improve the wide receiver room. And Beane saying it's a dumb argument, I don't agree with. I think it's a legit thing you bring up saying, look, you kind of wishing you would really improve the wide receiver position. Because right now, you got a bunch of guys who are, Keon Coleman hopefully takes a step forward, right?
And ideally, your slot receiver and Shakir shouldn't be your leading guy. And again, good that you got him coming back and is a solid producer, but you're kind of waiting for Keon Coleman to hopefully take that next step.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where you're at. And I just think it's like, I don't believe it's a dumb argument I think it's a legit argument to say, why didn't you get better at wide receiver? And I'm going to spin back here through the wide receiver, but the free agent signings by the Bills, just to make sure I didn't miss anything. They got the only wide receiver they got was Joshua Palmer, who's been like really a backup wide receiver with the Chargers.
And they got Laviska Shenault.
He's kind of like a gadget piece. He was a former first-round pick from Colorado.
Yep.
He's never really popped in the NFL. And at this point in his career, he's not even really looked at as a guy who is going to get a lot of reps at wide receiver. He's almost like a slot guy. Now, could he get some run at slot since you lost Shakur? Sure.
Shakur is back.
Shakur is back.
Correct me on that
sorry.
one. Yep, Shakur is back.
So you got Shakur back. You have Coleman. You hope that's going to get better this year as well. But I get what they're saying. You could have got a wide receiver maybe earlier in the draft, so it's not dumb. But look, I understand Beane. He's on hold. Your offense wasn't your problem last year. It was your defense, right?
Sure.
But you and I had this conversation when we just saw this story yesterday. Brandon, why?
you make yourself look bad. Now, yeah, were they, and again, we don't have the context of what exactly they were saying. Were they maybe overdoing it a little bit in terms of complaining about it? Sure, probably, but that's not the clip that gets circulated.
No.
You yelling at the two radio hosts locally is what gets out there, and you get very angry and upset about it. You look bad at the end of the day.
Remember, he stopped the one guy. The one guy wouldn't talk. The one guy like laughed. He goes, no, let me talk. So he was fired up by listening to that.
Sure.
And look, Brandon, you're supposed to know more than radio hosts. You're the GM. You're paid to know more. You're paid to be able to. You know things on the inside that no radio host is going to know, right?
Exactly, because literally you're the GM. You're the one that makes these decisions. And again, you can easily go, hey, guys, heard you guys talking about the wide receiver stuff. Here's what our thought process in the draft, why we went defense, why we didn't go receiver, whatever it may be, and just explain it.
This way you don't sound like you're being
because there's insecurity with that.
Yes, there's a lot of insecurity with that.
And
That's
again,
a great point.
I had to clean that up to make it suitable for radio because, again, he was ranting about it.
Yeah, I mean, when you were, because really when you do that, you do come off and you hit it perfect. You come off insecure. Why are you, what's the word I'm looking for? Why are you trying to justify what you do to a couple of sports talk show hosts who shouldn't know more than you? Because you're, again, the GM.
Right.
And you can put it the way you said it. Hey, guys, I heard what you guys were talking about wide receivers. I get what you're saying because we used to have Stephon Diggs. We used to have Emmanuel Sanders. We don't have those name guys anymore. But here's our thought process. As much as I can tell you dudes, because I can't give you all the good stuff because you weren't in the war room.
Here's what we expect out of Keon Coleman in his second year. Those kind of things.
We love Shakur, caught 76 balls last year.
So there's a right way and a wrong way to handle that.
Yeah.
I think he handled it the wrong way.
Yeah, he kind of came off, But, I guarantee you, though, like when he did it, anybody in the Bills front office who heard it, chest bump. Showed them. Give me a little fist, man. Give me a little forearm. That's pretty impressive. Man, flexed on those dudes. I mean, you don't have to. You don't have to justify anything. But, by the way, you're one of the 5 most successful franchises in the game over the last, 10 years.
You're doing pretty good.
Yeah, just breathe. You don't have to justify anything. All right, also, and we'll get to cut 6 here, Dave. So Tyler Booker, Alabama Crimson Tide guard. A lot of people projected Booker to the second round. Cowboys picked Booker in the first round. I think Booker's going to be a good player. Did they reach for him by value in the draft? Yeah, but if Booker goes out and he's a hell of a guard for 8-10 years, nobody cares, right?
Right.
So Booker, who was a little intense draft night when he got picked, right? Here he is talking about the Cowboys, and this is kind of a little telling. What Booker thinks about the Cowboys is like what a lot of us, just regular people watching TV, think about the Cowboys in some ways. Here's Booker talking about his future teammates.
People wake up, be like, man, I can't wait to play this football game today. They listen to their hype music. They take all the pre-workout. They get so excited to play football until they come across Tyler Booker. And then when I'm going after you, quarter after quarter, play after play, series after series, and I start to see that love leave their eyes, like that's what makes me love the game. Like I just really love.
So he was on doing an interview with Micah Parsons and Darius Slay on draft night, and that was his process of how he likes to dominate people on the field. And Micah Parsons loved it, by the way. He was fired up.
By the way, how many Cowboys probably share in that whole process that Tyler Booker's going through about wanting to just, kill the love from your opponent? Yeah. Cowboys were soft last year. Yeah. Cowboys just played soft. And, Micah Parsons, Micah Parsons is a phenomenal player.
Sure.
But how much true, Micah Parsons has this, is it just for show, or does Michael Parsons really have that quote-unquote dog in him? Or is he out there just to get his numbers? And when he, and some of the things he says, are they like, I'm supposed to say this way? Because I'm supposed to be, and I think with Parsons and with Dak Prescott both, there was a leadership issue in that locker room last year in Dallas. You heard DeMarcus Lawrence.
Sure.
When DeMarcus Lawrence was leaving, I think you have some paper leaders, and I think he looks at Parsons. What do you say to Parsons? Get off of Twitter.
Yeah, and again, was it Diggs? Still in his uniform, went out there and confronted a reporter for something that he tweeted during a game. Like, guys, what are we doing here?
Right. I just think there's the leaders, and you hear Dak Prescott saying all the polished things after games. Are the major quote-unquote leaders in that locker room just paper leaders? Because, look, you know anything, man. When you're deeply involved in something with other people, you know the phonies.
Sure.
Do they look at some of the guys in that locker room as phonies?
The people that turn on the charm when the cameras are on.
Yep. And is this why, like you heard DeMarcus Lawrence say what he said, if Micah Parsons was a true leader, DeMarcus Lawrence wouldn't have said that.
Sure.
Just saying. So that's my point about Booker is I'm hearing this stuff about I do this and do that. Well, you're going to a team of guys who a lot of them didn't do that last year.
Maybe you can set the trend for everybody.
Exactly. All right, we yap a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. We get our Firehouse sub text the hour next at 803-404-6100. And don't forget baseball tonight, starting at 6:15 here on the game. The Gamecocks taking on Charleston Southern. That's right here on the game in Columbia and our affiliate Myrtle Beach. Halftime show, Firehouse sub text the hour next on the game. All right, time to kick our Firehouse sub text the hour at 803-404 6,100. What do you got there, pal?
Interesting one here from Sam. Says, guys, how long before we see our first true generational player, think a Trevor Lawrence or Bo Jackson type, who chooses to play 4 years of college ball, becomes quite possibly the first $10 million player, then snubs the NFL for, let's say, law school or medical school? Don't think you're too far away from this. Once it happens, more players will see NIL as a way to build net worth while not destroying their bodies long term.
Interesting. That's a very interesting text.
Like, hey, like the one of those guys that doesn't like love football but kind of understands what he can do for him. Like, okay, if I can build, a bit of generational wealth in 4 years in college and then go do something else, not a terrible idea.
I mean, we saw Patrick Willis retire early in the NFL from San Francisco. We saw, Calvin Johnson go, I can't play for these crappy Lions anymore. I want to get out of the game in one piece.
By the way, that illustrates how bad the Lions were, that he's like, I can't do this anymore. I quit.
Barry Sanders, same way. It's like Barry Sanders was on the cusp of setting records.
Yeah.
And Barry Sanders said,
I can't do it anymore.
Records, play for the Lions, I'm retiring.
Both their backs hurt from carrying those teams.
I mean, so could we see a player who, and I think you hit it on the head, doesn't love it? Because when you love it, you can't stop.
Sure.
But let's say you like it, don't love it. Let's say, I like it, I can make some good coin, I don't really love it.
Mm-hmm.
So to the point of the texter, let's say you do 4 years, and let's say you get about 10 million. Let's say you're a quarterback.
Sure.
You like it, you don't love it. You play 4 years, you bag about 10 million.
Saved your money. You didn't drive the Lambo.
Right. You didn't get 3 different Lambos. Run around with some.
You invest in the money well.
Yeah. No. You didn't go out with a Instagram influencer or anything like that.
Yeah.
To spend your money. So let's say you got.
Are we describing somebody in particular here?
No, nobody at all. Well, they're not together anymore anyway.
They're not, and apparently he doesn't have a good personality. No friends.
Stunning. He's a looker. So
you can look at him if you want.
So anyway, maybe somebody does do that. Maybe somebody makes enough money to where they walk away from it after their 4 years. And let's say they're not. Let's say they are. Let's pick a guy. Let's take Ewers for a minute.
Okay.
Let's use Ewers in this. This is a very interesting exercise. Thank you, Texter. Let's take Quinn Ewers. High-profile recruit. Got him a lot of NIL love. He's been a good college player, not a great player, not looked at in the lens of the NFL as coming out of college, a starting quarterback. He's going to be drafted on the third day. Let's say he likes it, doesn't love it, and he gets through 4 years, makes roughly $10 million-ish, like you said, invest money wisely, not a goof, and he decides, you know what? I'm going to walk around carrying a clipboard in the NFL. I'm only going to be there a few years anyway. Screw it. I'm done. I'm going to leave college. I'm retiring from football.
I got a business degree, and I've got a job at a Fortune 500 company to go be some high-ranking official.
I'm the mayor of Austin, Texas. We got to the playoff 2 years in a row with me as the quarterback. They love me here. I'm going to open up the Quinn Ewers Insurance Agency or whatever.
That's true.
So to the texter's point, we might see that. Because a lot of times you'll see these really good college player doesn't make it in the league and goes off and does something else. Maybe someone might see reality. And again, we have to preface it where you don't love football.
Sure.
Because if you love it, you're going to get drafted and go try to be an NFL player.
Yeah.
But if you like it, but you don't love it, then you might pull the, you know what? That was fun.
There are plenty of guys in the NFL, and you'll hear this from former players on podcasts, stuff like that just treat it like a job. It's not like, and there are plenty of guys like, I eat, sleep, and breathe football, and I want to do this my whole life. But other guys are like, I figured out at a young age I was good at this. So I'm like, all right, I can go play this for a couple of years in the NFL, make tens of millions of dollars, and then retire and go do something else. And that happens. Some guys just view football that way. And as fans, I think it's kind of hard to wrap our heads around that, especially for guys playing at the college level. But those guys exist. Now, again, you're talking about a generational talent that's going to command more money than anybody else. So we haven't quite seen that yet, but it could happen.
It's funny when you first realize that the people that play sports at a high level and make a lot of money, some of them don't like the sport, or they like it, they don't love it. And they play it because they make a ton of money. They're like an accountant. I have accountant friends. They're bored to death.
Yeah.
Until they get paid.
That check looks great, though.
Check looks phenomenal. And I know as kooky as it sounds, so all of us goobers who would kill to go play professional sports because we're sports goobers, the idea that someone gets to do what we would love to do and they don't really care about it the way we do. And once you start seeing that, and I'll never forget, it hit me, and I won't say the player, but it was a NFL player was doing a player show. And they asked him about, you watch the games and stuff, and I'll never forget the guy saying, he goes, man, football bores me. I don't really watch football. And what do you do? He goes, I like playing video games. I'm not into watching football. And it's like, and they said, well, don't you love it? He goes, no, I like it a lot. I don't love it.
Sure.
I mean, and the guy, I'll never forget the player goes, it's my job. It pays me well, but I don't love it. And that's when the light bulb came on for the first time for me going, there is more players than you think in professional sports who do it because they get paid a ton and they like it because of the money it gives them, but they don't like the practicing and the grinding and the weightlifting and the film watching and all these other things. They don't dig it.
Yeah.
When they dig that check.
Yeah. If it was paying minimum wage, they probably wouldn't be doing it.
No. So to the point of the texter, you may see somebody use college and make a lot of money through the NIL space, and if they don't love the game, they might just stop then and go, you know what? I'm good. Excellent text. Thank you very much. 803-404-6100. What's trending at 2 is next here on the game.
Hey, welcome back in. Hour number 3 of the halftime show. Tyler Ed, Terry Ford, Captain Dave at Master Control here on your Tuesday. It is time for what is trending at 2, and got some news on the transfer portal front. If you've not heard us talking about it a little bit earlier on in the show, but South Carolina has received another commitment out of the transfer portal. This time adding some depth at defensive line, that being with transfer from Georgia Southern in Troy Pikes. Guy coming in, 6'3", 290. Played in all 13 games last year, 13 tackles, half a tackle for loss. Decent PFF grade when it came to rushing quarterbacks. Last year had a couple 9 QB pressures as well. I know those stats normally jump off the page at you as wow, but you look at the company that South Carolina was in when it came to trying to land him out of the transfer portal, and they end up winning out over Georgia and Ohio State. So that tells you that the evaluators of talent around college football must have seen something good in this kid to think that he can come in and be something for any of those schools. And Carolina obviously ends up winning out there. 3 years of eligibility remaining after he played this past year at Georgia Southern. So he's somebody that, as we talked about a little bit earlier, may not be expected to come in and make an immediate impact. You know what I mean? But somebody that you could potentially develop and work with as time goes on, and maybe one of your key pieces on that defensive front in, maybe a second or third year here at South Carolina. Now, again, if he does come in and blows you away and factors into being a regular rotator on defense, that's phenomenal, and you'll certainly take that. But kind of similar to Vendrivius Jacobs when he came in from Florida State a year ago with 3 years of eligibility remaining. That's how we kind of presented it. It's like, okay, while he may not jump off the page in year number 1, as time goes on, he can be a continuing developed piece within that wide receiver room. And again, he got injured last year, so we didn't get the full scope of what he was capable of, and we'll see what happens this year. But I kind of look at Troy Pikes the same way as, okay, if he can give you something in his first year, that's great. If not, then, maybe you're looking down the road years 2 and years 3 in terms of, what he can possibly do there. So we'll see what happens. But you have him committing out of the transfer portal a little bit earlier on today. Still waiting to hear in reference to Nolan Hay, who is going to be visiting South Carolina a little bit later on in this week. Offensive lineman from Incarnate Word, as he decides where he wants to go. And it seems like South Carolina and Oklahoma State are his final 2 competitors there. Oklahoma State, good season last year when it came to pass blocking, even though the season as a whole wasn't overly all that great. But Carolina in the mix there, visiting coming up on Thursday, which is May the 1st, and we'll see what he ends up doing there. But that's some news in the transfer portal. Again, the window closed Friday for guys to be able to put their names in. But, of course, there's ample time to be able to get guys out of it. And Carolina, in a lot of ways, looking for depth pieces here, which is what you have in Troy Pikes. And we'll see if they can land Nolan Hay potentially later on this week, if he can add to the offensive line room, which in the past week has lost both Cam Pringle as well as Ja'Kai Moore.
And again, like you said, depth pieces are good. And at this point in the year, if you could find a way to get another Demetrius Knight, that would be phenomenal. But right now you're adding guys who, if nothing else, will, in case you get some injuries, maybe guys can hopefully step up and help you out. All right, baseball tonight, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch. As South Carolina and Charleston Southern go at it. All right, Dave, get ready to click some sound here for us, my man. Game 3 of this series was frustrating for South Carolina because you split the doubleheader. Will Tippett gives you the game-winning homer, so you bag game 2, and you get to game 3, and then the one spot on the team that hasn't been a consistent problem, defense. Well, it became a problem, and South Carolina lost the final game of the series to Kentucky, losing 2 out of 3 in Lexington. Here is Coach Mainieri yesterday with Jay and Elijah on the postgame show talking about the frustration with all the errors that happened in Game 3. Cut to, Dave.
More so, really. When you don't back up a base or your pitcher hesitates to leave the mound on a ball grounded to the right side so the runner beats you to the base, when we don't communicate properly, where we don't hold the runners properly. Those are the things that bother me, because to me that's a reflection on me as a coach, to not be able to get the players to do the fundamentals of the game properly. Errors will happen, and strikeouts will happen, and walks will happen. It's just the nature of the game, but just to do the basic fundamental stuff is what I just take the most pride in. Through the years, my teams have been so fundamentally sound, but every so often, the players they lose the focus a little bit because of whatever reason, and some things happen. So I'm not proud of it, and I take responsibility for it. But it's something that we instead of having an off day today, we practiced, and believe it or not, we practiced pitchers backing up bases and pitchers covering first base, and our infielders handling hard hit balls and those kinds of things. But we're as I've said many times, the season has not gone the way we had hoped. I thought we would do better. I really did. I had just underestimated the strength of the conference and how much better the conference has gotten in the last couple of years. Just the players are so much bigger and stronger and more experienced, older, and we just have not been able to match up in some cases with them, and we've got to go out and get the players. We got to go out and recruit like crazy and make us better.
And that's the thing. You got to go to recruit to get players to make you better. But the frustrating thing probably for a coach, it's not ground balls hit right at, the second baseman, takes a weird hop and, bounces off his glove and it's called an error. Yep. That's a physical error.
Sure.
The errors that drive you crazy are the ones he's talking about. You're not backing up bases.
Overthrows.
You're rushing a throw.
Yep.
And you're making an overthrow because you didn't take your time, plant your feet, and make a throw. You were lazy with your fundamentals, threw it over, and all of a sudden you got a bad throw, and some dude's now on second or third base. It's those little things that drive you insane. Like the one, and this is not for high level, but I remember playing when I was a kid, like Little League Baseball, the kid that wanted to catch the ball with one hand in the outfield, just like the major leaguers.
Yeah, maybe the Sports Center highlights.
And what happens? He would drop it and drive you crazy.
Let runs score.
Crazy, right? Coach would
but he's the coach's kid, so he doesn't get taken out.
Yep, two hands. But again, fundamental things will drive you insane as a coach when the fundamental things aren't being done.
Sure.
And that's what'll make you crazy. You hit the wrong cutoff man, throw to the wrong base. Situations is something you do even when you're a little kid.
Oh,
End of practice. Couple times a week. What do you do, Tyler?
Yeah, hey,
situations,
man
baby.
On first, no outs, hit it to third base, and you're supposed to know. And again, you're supposed to be able to do that kind of stuff in your sleep. And he's right. I mean, from a fielding percentage, we're one of the best teams in the SEC throughout this entire season. Maybe it was the turf that threw him off this weekend. Again, you'd already played 18 innings the prior day, so it's not as much of an excuse in day number 3, but it was just one thing after another. And again, some of those things weren't even the routine, hey, the ball just went under his glove or bounced weird or whatever. It's we're overthrowing guys, missing throws, cut off men, and all that kind of stuff. Like, it's just, again, kind of a microcosm for the season, unfortunately.
Yeah, and that's just the way it's been. And Mainieri ended that riff by saying we need to go recruit better players. You've been hearing that a lot here lately about next year and going out and getting better players.
I'm sure he has looked himself in the mirror plenty of times and said, "This isn't what I thought it was going to be."
Well, he said it yesterday with Jay and Elijah that he kind of misread the room when it came to the SEC. That's so much better than when he left.
It's good that he's acknowledging that and not saying, well, we believe in what we got here. We're going to keep going down the same path because we think it's going to work. It's like, no, we know we got to upgrade. Now, saying it and doing it are two different things. You can desire to have a certain level of player all you want, but that doesn't guarantee they're going to come here.
Especially now in this world.
Yeah.
You need a little something extra than you used to.
Carolina is a program that a lot of people care about baseball. So you feel like you should be able to find what you need there, but we'll have to see.
We'll find out. But yeah, you gotta get better players. You gotta get. We start even with the pitching. The pitching is different. It's even 4 years later, the evolution of pitching through analytics. I mean, like the pitching lab at Wake Forest, like that Walter has. You look at if you pay attention to baseball, just the analytic advancement of pitching to where now they'll take a dude throwing 90 or 91, analytically break down his delivery and go through small little improvements that you can make in your delivery that can get you 3 to 4 miles an hour faster on your fastball.
Yep.
Or make the spin rate of your off-speed pitches even crazier and make the movement even better.
And in baseball, the margins are so thin, that difference between 2 and 3 miles an hour, night and day.
All right, for an example, let's say you throw 91 and you leave a fastball out over the plate. Now you're throwing 95, leave a fastball over the plate. You have a better chance of sneaking that fastball by a hitter at 95 than you do 91. It's just the way it goes now. And the idea that South Carolina right now, high-velocity arms on that staff, Jake McCoy.
Yeah.
I believe that's the only one that's really throwing mid to upper 90s consistently. And it just, that the world we live in now in baseball is velocity and spin rate.
And
just is.
Let's go back to before the season started, and we heard Mainieri kind of evaluating the talent that he had, where he admitted right off the jump, like, hey, we're not going to be a high strikeout kind of team. We're going to pitch contact. Okay, are you learning now that you need to be a higher strikeout team?
That's baseball now. What do they preach? Strikeouts.
Yes.
Miss bats. Because if they miss bats, what are they not doing, Tyler?
Putting the ball in play.
Right. And you and I have this conversation about college baseball all the time. You put the ball in play. These aren't major league defenders. Guys are going to make errors. Guys are going to make bad throws. Guys are going to, at times throw to wrong bases and do things. Hitting the baseball is nothing but a positive. And if you can miss bats and strike guys out, then you're saving defense and you're also, obviously stopping people from scoring runs.
So next year, or in this upcoming offseason, when we're hearing about these guys, he's bringing in from the portal. Every time he brings in a pitcher, how many strikeouts he have last year? Where do you rank on his team in strikeouts? Like, that's going to be my biggest question. Because, again, that's something you were missing in a lot of ways this year.
It's funny. It used to be if you struck out 7 hitters per 9 innings, you needed to be right there as a pitcher. Now it's almost a hitter an inning.
Yeah,
because
roughly.
of the velocity and spin rate that has been brought out by analytics. These pitchers are striking out hitters at a crazy rate because, again, the analytics of the sport have just made pitching go so far ahead of hitting.
Yep.
And you got to have guys who either throw really hard, have crazy movement and spin rate on their off-speed pitches. That's what you need now. Look, command and control is phenomenal. It is. But if you're bringing it up there at like 90, 88, 89, your command and control better be phenomenal.
Yep.
To make up for that. That's just the game pitching-wise now. All right, again, 6:15 tonight, 6:30 first pitch as South Carolina and Charleston Southern go at it. And you hear it here in Columbia and also in Myrtle Beach. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Remember we did that story that came out that there was rumor that Alabama's entire receiving corps, a lot of their receivers would have transferred if Jalen Milroe stayed because the way, he wasn't very accurate and he threw everything 100 miles an hour and these guys didn't really want to catch footballs from him. Kalen DeBoer actually had something to say about that. And we'll let you hear what that is, or we'll tell you what he said next here on the halftime show as we go till 3 on the game. What's trending at 2? Here on the Halftime Show on the Game, sponsored by Gamecock Traditions and Traditions Fine Jewelry. All right, so there was this little rumor about Jalen Milroe, if he would have come back to Alabama to be the starting quarterback, that all the wide receivers are going to leave and go in the portal because they didn't want to catch footballs thrown by Jalen Milroe anymore. Kellen DeBoer was on KJR Sports Radio in Seattle. And DeBoer, the quote, I think I've heard that same quote, fellas, and I think the word all was used. So whenever absolutes are used like that, I kind of question it right there. The words never, always, and all, I think are a little far-fetched. I don't think we would have lost all of our receivers to the portal or anything like that. Now, even with Milroe leaving the program, multiple receivers did go in the portal. Alabama lost 6 players at the wide receiver position who decided to transfer out. So Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard are back. They get the Miami transfer Isaiah Norton as well. I mean, Williams obviously started fantastic and then kind of went through the season. Bernard, obviously, productive player. So they do have wide receivers coming back, but that was pretty interesting. The point, I guess, DeBoer is making is he didn't say none of them were going to leave, or he didn't say, look, no, it's like all of them aren't going to leave over it. So maybe there were a couple of receivers who were a little frustrated.
Some of them would be willing to leave over it. And again, now that Milroe's gone, I mean, he can spin this however he wants to, right? Because it didn't happen. But yeah, that whole, well, are you implying that some of them would have? That's interesting.
It is, isn't it? Very interesting. College football, Spencer Danielson, head coach at Boise State, got a contract extension. He'll now be the second highest paid coach in whatever conference that thing is called out there.
They are in the...
They're still the Mountain West. They haven't started the new Pac-12 or whatever.
Pac-6, whatever we're going to call it.
Whatever.
Which is still kind of the Mountain West, but not whatever. Either way.
The only coach out there that makes more than him, you want to give it a shot?
At G5?
No, out in that... whatever that league thing is out there.
Is it Mullen?
Yep.
Yeah.
And Mullen's getting like $3.5 million at UNLV.
Well, it was going to take a lot to peel him off that desk.
Absolutely. He was loving that. Danielson will make 2.2.
Though, there is concern if they can actually pay Mullen all that money.
Remember that? They might not have, after this year, they might not have the money.
Well, remember, they couldn't pay their quarterback, Sluka. Mm-hmm. It was like $100,000.
Allegedly. Right.
And then, it's like, hey, Danny, we're good for 1 year. After that, I don't know.
You like gift cards, Dan?
Will you coach on just our word? How's that sound?
The love of the game.
The love of the game. You're in Vegas, man. It pays for itself.
Jeez.
You know what? We'll give you $200. You go play a blackjack table and see if you can win your salary. How about that?
So, and look, Spencer stepped in, and, after he was the interim head coach. Boise State won the Mountain West, got beaten their bowl game. Then this past year, got into the college football playoff, lost to Penn State. And what, to Boise State's credit, they made that game close for a bit in the second half, and then Penn State got some big plays and pulled away.
Penn State also just stopped running the ball for some reason, and then they're like, oh, crap, we were doing good in the first half with this.
It's like the TV executives made a phone call to Franklin, hey, Bub, you just quit running the ball.
You're stinking up our game.
You're killing us here. We need this game closer. So a contract extension and more dough for the Boise State head coach. Also, Chad Baker-Mazara, who played his college basketball at Auburn, was a vital piece to that cog that got to the Final Four under Bruce Pearl. Baker-Mazara hit the transfer portal and has landed at Southern Cal under our guy Eric Musselman, who, of course, left Arkansas to go to Southern Cal last year. All right, and then you go, wow, he's playing the Big Ten. Okay, because that's Southern Cal. All right,
that's right.
Baker-Mazara, and I'm going to do this off the top of my head.
Yep.
I believe started at San Diego State? No, he was second stop with San Diego State. What was the first stop?
You want to take a guess?
Utah?
Duquesne.
That's what he went. Duquesne, San Diego State, junior college, Auburn, and now Southern Cal in his career.
Yeah, so he started his career in 2020 and will be playing through 2026 at Southern Cal next year.
That's a combination of COVID and the transfer portal world we live in.
Yes. So, the COVID. No, he came in after the COVID season.
Okay.
because his freshman year was 2020, 2021.
Okay, right.
But he only played in 15 games. And again, basketball's different with red shirts and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, he played 1 year of JUCO before getting to Auburn. So.
And of course, remember, he gets that JUCO year back now.
Yeah, he does. And
because of
like this morning, we were talking to Jacoby Wright. I was like, I think you're out of eligibility. I don't know at this point. If you tell me you got more, I'll believe it, because it's like, okay, sure, why not? But yes, Chad Baker-Mazara, who's been playing college basketball since 1850, will be playing for Southern Cal next year.
Pretty interesting. And again, he played 2 years at Auburn because, again, he got that year back because of JUCO. So now he'll play at Southern Cal. And I'm wondering, look, Auburn's lost some players, obviously. That was a very veteran-laden team. Maybe Baker-Mazara didn't want to start over for in his final year, and he wanted to go somewhere where maybe they're a little bit farther along with their roster. And two, you never know how much loot was thrown out. Look, Eric Musselman didn't go to Southern Cal not to have NIL money. Now, I know Southern Cal's a football school. I get it. But Southern Cal also has really built up their collective since Lincoln Riley got there. So there might be some collective money, and you got to spend it because everything's changing.
Sure.
So
he didn't willingly leave one of the best SEC programs for nothing.
He didn't leave just because I always want to go to the beach. I always want to live by the beach.
No, you're an everyday starter in the SEC. It's going to take a lot to entice you to leave that.
Oh, speaking of college, this GM thing is going on these days, right? Well, guess who's now a GM? Shaq Fu Kazam Daddy, baby. Shaquille O'Neal.
If by GM you mean footing the bill.
Sacramento State.
Because
his son plays there.
Steph's now a GM with Davidson. Trey Young with Oklahoma. It's basically like, hey, give us money so we can go get good players.
And we'll call you the GM. Wait, ready? What title do you want, Tyler? You're going to give us a lot of money.
Call me the general manager. Sure.
Because the real general manager's at Stanford, Andrew Luck.
Exactly. Because when you think of general manager, you think of somebody that's sitting in a front office every single day at your program, having meetings and phone calls and all this kind of stuff, fundraising. Like, no, this is literally Shaq, because his son plays on the team, saying, all right, how much money do you need? Writes the check. Boom. All right. Thanks, general manager. We'll come back to you when we need more. Sounds good.
Yeah. So that idea you have in your head about, no, that's not a real general manager at this point. Andrew Luck is, which is interesting. All right.
But I don't hate teams for doing this. Oh, it's an avenue.
You need streams of revenue, right? Every way possible.
And the football side of things has not gotten to this point yet, but I'd be willing to bet it's coming. Now, again, Andrew Luck is very much a hands-on general manager, but at what point do you say, hey, Patrick Mahomes, you want to be the GM of Texas Tech football? Sure. Just write us checks. Why not? He's making $500 million anyway.
You need all the money you can get your hands on.
Sure.
You just do. All right, last one here. What's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. There is I don't know if concern's the right word.
I'm concerned.
But there's some eyebrows being raised over what's going on in Chapel Hill with Bill Belichick and his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. And this according to, and we laugh at TMZ, but sometimes they're a lot more correct than traditional news outlets. Now, if you saw any of the CBS Sunday morning interview with Belichick, and then there was the I forget the guy's name who asked the question, but the reporter, we have the clip?
It was from yesterday.
Oh, we have the clip from yesterday?
Dave, hit yesterday's tab. I think it's like 21. Says Belichick. Hit that.
Grab this, cut 21 really quick, and play this, because this kind of has started a lot of bringing in some other stuff with this whole thing with Jordan Hudson and Bill Belichick. Hit it, Dave.
Jordan was a constant presence during our interview.
You have Jordan right over there. Everybody in the world seems to be following this relationship. They've got an opinion about your private life. It's got nothing to do with them, but they're invested in it. How do you deal with that?
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks. Just try to do what I feel like is best for me and what's right.
How did you guys meet?
Not talking about this.
No?
No.
It's a topic neither one of them is comfortable commenting on.
Yeah, which, again, you and I talked about this upstairs this morning. There are a lot of things you don't ask people about their relationships that are personal or TMI or whatever.
Sure.
Hey, how'd you meet?
Seems pretty straightforward.
Pretty easy,
Consider
right?
the fact there's already a story out there that they met on a plane when she was in college. Like, just say, hey, we sat next to each other on a plane. Nothing real suspicious there, but the fact that she's like, we don't talk about this. What do you mean?
It's weird.
Bill, blink twice if you're in trouble.
We'll save you, Bill. We'll get you out of this, Bill.
The ultimate control freak is being controlled.
I know, it's crazy. Also, it said that she stormed out of this interview
multiple times.
And it made everything like a half hour late because she stormed out of the interview. She was interrupting a ton.
She's now posted a screenshot of an email Bill sent about a memoir about him. Like, there's apparently a press release coming out later today. I don't know what's happening.
Well, there is now concern that, Bill's girlfriend is kind of a little bit over her skis, so to speak, and is kind of running around doing stuff. And obviously they hired Belichick. Basically, somebody wants to look at Bill and go, hey, Bill, can you check her for us, please?
Yeah, you're coaching football.
Can you help us out here? Come on, Bill. You got to do something. We didn't hire her. We hired you, Bill. Come on.
She's pulling the strings.
It seems like it. Jeez, like all of a sudden she's Jim Henson, and he's Kermit. All right. Greatest day in the history of the world, April 29th. That's next here on the halftime show in the game. April 29th, greatest day in the history of the world, here on the Halftime Show. All right, hey, well, I can hear me a second time. That's kind of cool.
Sorry about that.
You're all good. Dave, get ready. This day in 1961, this was heard for the first time ever. Hit it, Dave. I gave it a great intro, too, didn't I?
There it is.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. The human drama of athletic competition. This is ABC's Wide World of Sports. Brought to you by the makers of Vic.
Okay, Dave, you can kill it. Brought to you by...
Why don't we talk like that anymore? I don't know what you call that vernacular way of speaking, but it's so cool. Like that 50s, 60s style of welcome to the Wild World of Sports.
World of Sports.
Like, where did that go? Why did we stop talking like that?
Because we decided at some point in broadcasting that we wanted just to talk like our regular voices and not do that.
See?
Uh-huh. Oh, I remember when I first got music radio. Back in the old days, I had a program director who talk like this all the time. That's what he did, talk like that. And I remember, he hired me. He's like, hey, Tara, can you talk a little more like this? Like, get your diaphragm like down in here. You know what I'm saying? Talk like this, man. Talk like a boss jock. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I can't do that, John. I think honestly, my throat might explode. But yeah, remember Gary Owens, the old Gary Owens? He was an LA jock, and he used to do laugh-in.
Mm-hmm.
And he would hold his hand over his ear. And that was always the way we would make fun of, like, the pukers, right, Dave?
Right.
You put your hand over your ear like this. You talk like that, Tyler. That's what you do. You talk like that. Hey, it's out there, guys and gals out there in radio land. That's what it was like.
Okay.
And everybody stopped doing it.
Well, it sounded cooler.
Jim McKay.
Everybody back then sounded like they were in Casablanca. You know what I mean?
Casablanca. By the way, very underrated, very good movie. Very underrated movie today.
Greatest movies of all time.
It was a great movie back in the day. Today, no one, you say Casablanca to people, they go, what the hell is that?
I watched it in film class back in college.
It's good, man.
That, French Connection, great movies.
Oh, French Connection's phenomenal. The chase scene alone in French Connection is phenomenal. But yeah, Jim McKay, the guy that you heard the voice, hosted Wide World Sports forever, won a ton of Emmys, but he was the guy on the air when in the 1972 Olympics, when the terrorism act happened in the Munich Games in the 72 Olympics. He just stayed on the air and did news coverage. He went from sports to news coverage.
Yep.
And it was an iconic moment in broadcasting where he just, boom, they went to news. They stopped the sports, stopped the Olympics, and went to the news story of terrorists taking Israeli athletes hostage. And Jim McKay was the guy. But Wild World of Sports was great. 1 minute you'd have serious sports, and the next minute you have Acapulco cliff diving.
Yeah. Well, and was it Saturdays when it aired? Mm-hmm. My dad's talked about watching it when he was a kid because he didn't have Sports Center that played 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And, I guess you'd get your local Major League Baseball team, but if you wanted anything else going on anywhere around the world of sports, you had to watch that. And again, there wasn't an NFL Sunday ticket where you could watch every game either.
No, it was funny because Wild World of Sports was a mix of, like I said, real sports. Like they'd have, the World Gymnastics Championships, and then after that you would have dodgeball.
Yeah.
They did some ESPN show.
Downhill alpine skiing.
Yeah, it was like real. It was wild because you saw some interesting stuff. So, I mean, it was kind of ahead of its time in a lot of ways, but it showed you sports you never, ever, ever cared about in your life. Like those dudes, I remember watching these dudes cliff diving. That's insane.
Oh,
that is insane.
I'd be afraid of a rock under there.
I mean, I would jump off the lifeguard stand when I was a kid into the deep end of the pool because I was a maniac, but I'm not jumping off no bleeping cliff. No, thank you. That stuff is, you've lost your mind. But yeah, ABC Wide World of Sports was cool, man. All right,
I got some Gary Owens.
Yeah, Gary Owens? Make Tyler happy.
This portion of the show is being brought to you by Ed's genuine, authentic, 100% imitation wigs and toupees.
I love it.
Ed's wigs and toupees are so realistic and lifelike that no one will even suspect you're wearing one, unless they happen to glance over in the general direction of your head.
See, we need to return to talking like that.
You think we should talk like that?
We will be taken more seriously if we speak with that kind of vernacular.
That's right. Like right there was a total goof spot, but he sounded so good you didn't realize it was a goof spot.
Exactly.
It was a spoof. Gary Owens. Very nice pull by you, David Ayer. Gary Owens. All right. By the way, guys, in the Radio Broadcaster Hall of Fame, Gary Owens worked in L.A. forever. All right. Also, greatest day in the history of the world. 1970. Lakers guard Jerry West hits a 60-foot desperation shot at the buzzer to tie Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Think about today's world with all of the media we have, somebody hitting a 60-foot desperation shot to tie an NBA Finals game to force overtime.
I think they would break the replay button on that the next day.
Be phenomenal. By the way, the Knicks won the game in overtime.
But for that moment, iconic.
Yeah, it was crazy. This day in 1980, Oklahoma running back Billy Sims was the first pick overall by the Detroit Lions. Billy Sims, he was 25 when he got drafted. He was a little older, and he had a really good career that got cut short by injuries. And, of course, Barry Sanders, everybody talks about Barry Sanders, but Billy Sims was a phenomenal running back in Detroit until he got hurt. 1,000-yard season. So Billy Sims, first pick overall in this day in 1980. 1981. Philadelphia Philly lefty Steve Carlton becomes the first lefty to strike out 3,000 hitters. Here's what Steve Carlton said about it after the game. He didn't talk to the media.
No.
Steve Carlton refused to talk to the media. He had a catcher, his caddy catcher, and you might have heard of this guy, was a dude named Tim McCarver.
Okay.
Tim McCarver caught Steve Carlton all the time, and then Tim McCarver would speak to the media afterwards for Steve Carlton. That's how really Tim McCarver built his career to become a broadcaster. Tim McCarver for years did national baseball broadcasts as an analyst, and he got in with a lot of the media folks because he was the mouthpiece for Steve Carlton.
I think teams make you talk to the media now.
Yeah, it's a little different world now. You can't be Steve Carlton anymore. 1981, also on this day, some guy named George Rogers was the first pick overall by the New Orleans Saints.
Being pretty good. They built a statue for him.
Yep. And I tell you what, he had some good years as a pro. Everybody talks about his Heisman Trophy and all that, but George Rogers had some really good seasons in the NFL as well. It wasn't like this guy peaked by winning a Heisman. He was a good NFL running back, too. Greatest day in the history of the world. We're rolling that baby here on the halftime show on the game. The circus that was the Yankees in the 80s. This day in 1985, New York Yankees fire Yogi Berra 16 games into the season as their manager, despite assurances from owner George Steinbrenner that he would be kept for the whole year. Wow, George didn't tell the truth. Crazy.
Shocking.
His replacement, Billy Martin. Because Billy Martin, I think, managed for George Steinbrenner in New York about 10 different times. This day in 1986, Roger Clemens, as pre-steroids, set a major league record by striking out 20 hitters as the Red Sox beat the Mariners 3-1. This day, 1986, Auburn running back Bo Jackson was the first pick overall by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. How do you do as a Buccaneer? He didn't.
He didn't.
He didn't. I tell you, honestly.
Also, running backs at number 1 overall.
We've just hit a couple of them.
Crazy.
3 of them.
Crazy.
Never happened today.
Genty at 6, Saquon at 2. That's as close as we're going to get, I think.
Yeah, you're never going to see a running back go number 1 again in our lifetime. And the thing is with Bo, it was a shame he got hurt in that playoff game against Cincinnati with the hip because Bo Jackson playing baseball and football, it was crazy that, look, Deion was a good baseball player. Obviously, he was a Hall of Fame corner, but Bo Jackson affected the game, football and baseball. He won the Major League Baseball All-Star Game MVP.
Yep.
I mean, Bo was something else, man. Something else. All right, it's the greatest day in the history of the world. Firehouse Subtext, the hour come next, 803-404-6100. Also, we'll do our handoff with our buddy Jay Phillips from the postgame show. That is next here on the halftime show on the game. All right, we get our Firehouse Sub Text the Hour in here on the halftime show at 803-404-6100. What do you got there, man?
Well, first of all, Jay's nervous. He's already sweating.
I know.
I am sweating, and it's also 77 in here.
It's only 77 in here.
I think Bill turns it off in the mornings, and we have to adjust it throughout the day.
It takes all day for it to come down from 92 the way Gunner has it. Gunner has a sweater on in August.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it in my entire life.
The other day we were at the golf tournament. I saw him down in Hilton Head, and, it was already warm, and I was already sweating. And, Bill had on his quarter zip, and he had on shorts at least.
Yeah.
But, I was like, I'd have been
I have never seen a human being more colder than Gunner in my life.
It's rare. He does seem to be in that top 10%.
Now I don't like being cold myself, but I can deal with it better than Gunner does.
My dad, when he got 80, started wearing sweaters in July, because I guess when you get really old like that, and you just start getting cold all the time. But Gunner's like an 80-year-old man in the body of a 42-year-old.
That sounds. I could not have described it any better.
So you all geeked up for your life. I will talk soccer for 42 seconds typically. So you ready? Y'all geeked up for your match?
I am doing my best to understand that I have a job to do over the next 3 hours, while 2 of them will be.
You just let Coach Campbell talk.
I already told. I said, the YouTube camera will see me looking up, and he'll say something. I'll be like, "Yep, oh, yeah, like that." That's how it's going to be.
So you feeling confident?
Yes, I do.
Feeling good?
I do. I feel, and this is leg 1 of 2. They'll play again next week in Paris. Today's in London. It's Arsenal versus Paris. This week in London, next week in Paris. Winner after 2 goes to
your boys haven't been this good in a minute, have they?
This is their biggest match in this competition in 16 years. It's been
you're holding it together well, though.
It's been a long time.
I'm impressed with you. You're holding it together well.
I wear a nice facade. A buddy of mine, my buddy Jackson, we have a big Arsenal group chat, and he texted and basically said, I'm nervous and excited all at once. And I said, just go spike your Pepto with Jack Daniels and you'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Take the edge right off of you.
That's right.
So you got to talk to Coach Mainieri yesterday. What were your thoughts after all that?
A lot of folks picked it up immediately. I just think a lot of us were a little taken, by his portrayal of where things were, especially when he said, kind of underestimated the strength of the league. And I know that took some people. We got instant hits on the text line and Twitter, and heard from a few media folk as well that were listening. I know there's been multiple write-ups about it already today across the different platforms. I appreciate his honesty, and I think I know what he was going for there, but it's not something that's going to make a lot of fans feel any. Look, this year, as we said, and I don't mean to, for those who really just still believe, hey, there's a chance because they have games. I said yesterday, season on the brink, and look, it's been that way for a while. For the more cynical fan, that's an eye roll statement, and I get it. I think the difference is you just didn't see South Carolina baseball getting to this point. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. It's hard to explain because I've said a bunch on my show, taking Missouri out of the equation,
right?
And I mean that in a nice way. South Carolina's in the worst shape of any program in the conference. And now you've even got schools like Auburn that are in the top 10. Mm-hmm. And Auburn used to just not give a crap. Kentucky used to not give a crap.
Tennessee used to not give a crap. Study. It was like a library, right?
Mm-hmm. And so what happened to allow this? And it's not all on Paul.
No,
there's a lot of people.
Not at all.
There's a lot of people that are responsible for where this program is.
I guess the thing about it, too, when you look at it, Jay, like when you watch this team play against the high-level teams in the SEC, you see it's not like, wow, they are so close to being. No, you see the difference. Mm-hmm. You see what's lacking, what other teams have, and what South Carolina doesn't. Just like men's basketball this past year. You can see it. You don't have to be a genius to go, they don't have that, and they don't have that, and they don't have that, and they need to get all that.
All right.
And how it gets that way, all right, and like you said, there's a lot of people who can line up this why this happened. But now I'm hoping that now that Mainieri has seen it for a year, sees how tough this league is, sees where baseball is at and how you become successful at it, now go attack and go get these players to make yourself on that level or get you closer to that level.
Right.
Because right now, You're just not.
No, you don't.
You're just not.
You don't have the horses to run the race, but and that's an understatement.
I mean, now you've seen. You and I we were doing the halftime show together Lamont's first year. When we say, okay, dude, you went through the league once.
Yep.
You see what you need to go win. Now let's see you go get those type of players, and that's where you're at with baseball.
And in year 2 he did, and then in year 3 I think he thought he did, and for a couple of guys, and it did not work. And now, gosh, I was looking today at the latest edition through the through the high school ranks coming in. It's a complete overhaul. There's a brand new team, man.
I mean, if you look at,
it's almost like he's a brand new coach with a brand new roster.
I mean, it's going to, and he still has to get a point guard.
Has not gotten a one yet.
They haven't got a point guard yet, so he needs a veteran point guard.
I looked again. There's still some out there.
They're out there.
Yeah.
I looked at it yesterday. I'm like, there's a few point guards out there that make your team better.
But do they fit what he wants? Because again, he thought last year he had one and he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, look, this isn't difficult. Can Talon Cooper have any eligibility left at all?
Apparently not. But in terms of baseball season on the brink, again, it's just now how do you position yourself for that summer recruiting haul?
And you've got to recognize what you need, and you got to